Welcome back to episode 38 of the Left, Right, and Center Show. I am Tim,
Hello.
and that is Nate, your two hosts for the evening. Appreciate everybody who's here and watching live and listening live. We have a lot of small topics to get through today. Not as many big ones. We say that a lot, though, right? And then sometimes we just
Yeah,
will drill down and
I think
not
I
get
think
to.
we've lost the grand narratives ever since Chris started taking his break. It was a lot easier. I've said this a bunch of times. It's a lot easier for me as somebody on the right to think of things where I could like punch at Chris on the show, and then it sort of like drives me to come up with big narratives that we can delve into. But I mean, with me and Tim, it's like we just talk about everything under the sun. So
Yeah, true. So, speaking of, I want to start off with one that, god damn, if your timing couldn't be worse. Like, how can you come out with this right now? Hold off on releasing this white paper 6 months, a year, something, all right?
what is it?
Tiny wireless injectable chips use ultrasound to monitor body processes. Where's the picture? Oh, it's not
You
on there.
know,
There's a picture of this chip inside of a hypodermic needle tip somewhere. And it's like really, like, don't feed them right now. They don't feed them this right now.
yeah. You know what though? The crazies aren't going anywhere, man. I mean, they're always going to be here. You know, it's like they probably. You know what? It would be hilarious. I bet they've been sitting on this. It's like, oh no, Pete can't do it right now. People are freaking out about Bill Gates and mind control and all that stuff. And they're like, you know what? Well, it's still here, so let's just go ahead and release it. Let's only put out one article, but
Look, we need more funding. We have to get something published. We got to
gotta
do
get
it.
this out the door.
Do you think it could have a reverse effect on people? Like, someone sees it and they're like, "Oh, well, they're actually talking about this." So, yeah, well, then it's not a conspiracy anymore. So they must not have been doing it.
Not in my experience. In my
No.
experience, people
Yeah.
who are conspiracy minded, not even just in general, but people who imbibe in any particular conspiracy, they really don't ever back off of it for any reason, really. Like most of the
Yeah.
time, you kind of just have to let it time out. Like they're going to be super interested in it for a little while, and then hopefully they stop talking about it and they pull themselves out of the community, and eventually they look back on it with a little bit of you know embarrassment, hopefully. But in my experience, no. I don't, have you ever, Tim? Because I know you can't let anything go. I know you love talking to people. Have you ever pulled anybody out of one of their conspiracy theories successfully?
Not that they would admit at the time, but then later they were like, "Yeah, you convinced me." Right? It was like one of those things where pride came in, and
Right.
it was
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah. I mean,
argument
there was
got
there was
so
plenty of that
ridiculous.
last episode. So
Right? Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly, that kind of thing, right? So the argument gets so ridiculous, so entrenched, but
yep.
they hadn't admitted to themselves yet that they knew at that point they were wrong, but sometime not too long after they were thinking about it, and they're like, and then like it was like a year or two later, they were like,
Yeah, I'm big enough to admit it now that there's enough emotional separation.
yeah. So
I try to take
uh,
no longer than a week to cool down off of those things, so I can come on the next episode and say, you know what, I had my mind changed by something you said last episode. I think it's good to demonstrate for everybody, and it feels good too. It's a very healthy thing to do, I think.
yeah, and I know that I've done it on here a few times where I kind of had my opinion, and then listening to, I think it was back when you and Chris were here with the last one, but listening to both sides, I'd be like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I can see that more now." Like,
yeah,
I don't think I've completely changed, but I've at least been way more accepting of the other view. So,
yeah.
but anyway, outside of all that, getting too deep on a topic, Columbia, keep your shit to yourselves, okay? You don't need to be spreading this around right now.
Who's making this? And I guarantee there's people right now tracing down all of the funding that goes into this company. Seeing if any of it came from Microsoft.
biggest lender, Bill Gates, son of a bitch.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, he's
I mean,
single now, by the way. If you're looking to upgrade,
dude, I would do it.
I'm
I
just
would.
saying.
I would do it. For billions. I would do it. Whatever. He's
for
old.
a billion.
It's
Come
only gonna
on,
be
man.
like 20 more years. 20 more years, and then I'm good. No, uh, it's kind of shocking that he is. You felt like him and Melinda were so um so entrenched together. Like that
Yeah,
foundation is an example. That thing's gonna go on for forever, for ages,
yeah.
right? And
As a rule, I sort of generally disdain celebrity couples, but I mean, Bill Gates was like, he's always a bit of a kindred spirit to me, and I don't mean that in like a grandiose way. I mean that he's a nerd and I'm a nerd, and he hit it off well. He is like one of the ultimate nerds, and so
dude,
I was always somewhat like, I don't know, if he was a sports team, I'd be rooting for him. But that was back when I was a kid. Now that I know that he's like associated with Epstein, that kind of stuff puts me off him. Apparently, he's
I
also
don't
chasing skirt.
I don't know anything about the Epstein Association. I haven't heard anything about that. So you saying it now is the first time I've heard anything. But
Oh, really?
um,
He flew with Epstein, allegedly, people. So Bill Gates allegedly flew with Epstein after the most recent rounds of him being. No, no, no. It would have been after the first rounds of him being nearly indicted in Florida, or actually being
yeah,
indicted in Florida.
I don't know. And I mean, I'm gonna get off the point I wanted to make here, but associate like imagine if it came out that you were a pedophile, right? Like I've been doing podcasts with you for how long? I'd be associated with it. People would be like, "Oh my god,
Right, right.
how
Okay.
could you be his friend?" I'd be like, "Dude, I didn't know." They're like, "You talk to him every week
Yeah.
on camera, like for
Okay.
hours. How
So
did you not know?"
there's a difference, though. So the difference being that you wouldn't do a podcast with me after it came out that I was a pedophile, right? I would
If
hope not.
if you well, this is the point I was going to get to though. Is if you got
Yeah.
indicted, like if they brought charges on you, maybe and they didn't stick, or it was still in process, and I talked to you about it, and you were like, "Dude, I don't know where this is coming from. This I really didn't do any of this." I would probably give you the benefit of the doubt, right? You're
Well,
my friend. I
I
trust
you
you.
know me.
You
Okay,
know?
so if I was a pedophile, I wouldn't be a good person. But me as the person I am, I wouldn't want you to associate with me. I'd be like, hold on, man. Like these are bad charges, but just don't associate with me for now. This stuff looks real bad on everybody. So like, yeah,
But I'm
these.
not young enough for you anymore. Is that what
Oh
it is?
God. Like, yeah, precisely. I mean,
Jeez, jeez. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
no.
I get
Look,
what
the
you're
point.
saying, but
Right. The
when
point
you're
was is
friends
that
with
Bill
somebody,
Gates, after Jeffrey Epstein was, either mildly convicted or convicted or whatever in Florida, after that, Bill Gates was on his private jet with him a bunch of times. And I
yeah.
guess that was actually
Again,
part of like
I'm
Melinda was not happy with
speculating.
that.
No, I'm speculating, but like I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt a little bit and saying like that doesn't necessarily mean he was
No,
involved with that stuff,
no.
um but yeah,
That's
I
one
mean, I get
conspiracy
especially
theory I
in
don't mind imbibing in very much.
yeah,
Back.
well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about all that. But the other thing I was going to say back to the chasing skirt comment, in some ways I don't envy in the same ways I do envy uh billionaires and things because
Ah,
how many women are chasing you? How many gold diggers are coming after you? And like
right.
how hard is it sometimes to say no over and over and over to something that you're
Right.
biologically like inclined to want to say yes to, right? Like so I'm not trying to give them any sort of defense or anything, right? Like what they, cheating is wrong end
Well,
of
it
story,
probably
but
helps that he's ugly, right? Probably tamp down on the.
there just doesn't matter.
No,
Doesn't matter.
it
With
doesn't matter
billions
for
it
some
doesn't
women.
matter. Yeah, not enough. Billions matters more, right?
Listen, I had this conversation with my fiance, and I said, "You wouldn't do it for $1 billion? $1 billion?" And she said no. She
Great, you
she
got a
said
good
no.
one. You got a
Yeah.
good one.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the case or she just
I'm
can't
not
swallow
a
her
good
pride.
one. I would do it for $1 billion,
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I was trying to say
right?
to
I
her.
mean, like, that's the point is there's plenty of people out there, and I don't even look
Yeah.
down on them like, "Hey, man, you do what you wanna do."
No, I mean, if I was dating me, I'd be mad at me if I didn't say if I didn't take that opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like why
You
did
get
you not
one
do that?
you get one shot. You
Right.
get
Send some money back, please.
Yeah, so, anyhow.
Yeah.
You got one, or you want me to pull one up?
Yeah, I got let's talk non-political. Let's talk about the dip in Bitcoin and Ethereum. all the crypto markets. I tacked on Ethereum there because that's my baby. But disclaimer right out the gate: neither of us. Oh wait, we do have a financial advisor, but he's here in his social capacity, so he's not here to advise you about crypto today. We're just here to talk about what's going on in the market and this
I'm gonna
crap.
be very careful about what
Very,
I
very
say.
careful. So we can maybe just talk about Elon Musk then. How does that sound? Right.
The
So
crypto king.
the crypto king
The
himself.
crypto king. Yep.
So let's look at this. All right. So if we go, all right, let me pull this up real quick. So here we are. We're looking at Bitcoin here, right? We're looking at some top end prices here. I'm seeing this just about tipping $60,000, um, which is the all time high for Bitcoin. As you can see, if you go back a year, we're way up there. Oh, I'm sorry. 63 is the high. Okay, but anyways, so Bitcoin's doing pretty good, right? It's hovering up in the 50,000 range, 50,000 per coin. And then Elon Musk just comes out of nowhere as he always does, and he starts tweeting off. I was going to say mouthing off, but tweeting off about how Bitcoin is not decentralized, how there's only a certain amount of nodes, and how it's bad for the planet. And then Tesla came out. Tesla has been accepting Bitcoin for payment for their cars, but they're like, well, we're no longer going to be accepting payment for our cars because Bitcoin's bad for the environment, this, that, and the other thing.
And then Bitcoin goes down, down, baby. Oh shit.
Down, baby, all the way. Let's see, looks like it tipped 34,000 today. Right, it bounced back up a little bit, but this is a strong. This is almost a 50% drop here.
Yeah, but it's done that before.
It has done that before, right?
Go back to the several year chart or whatever, and you'll see that huge spike in 2010. Was it?
No, 20. Well, sure,
19,
but
19. Sorry, 19. Yeah, there was one back then too, but the 19 one is.
There's a bunch of there's a bunch of movement in here. You just can't see it because the scale's so large.
Yeah. So you see it.
Yeah,
I mean, it jumps
spike
to 14.
in 2018 up to 17, all the way back down to 3. Everybody's, people losing their life savings in here. A lot of good stuff going on there, right? It also went up to 10 here. Less of a dip, but down to 5 there. That's 50% down. And then 2020, it just spiked up, and then it was going great until Elon Musk mouthed off. The same thing with Ethereum. Ethereum's my favorite. It was doing really, really good. For those who don't know, crypto generally follows Bitcoin's trajectory.
Yeah, they generally track all together. There's some independence in there, but if you look at the big trends for any of the curves, they generally track. A couple things with crypto. One is that it's a fairly small market. So
small, like 1 trillion, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is, but yeah, I mean it is, but it's global.
Yep.
And it's very heavily subject to the supply and demand of it, right? I'm trying to say it a different way. So whereas you look at the stock in a stock market, and it's based on a company, and that company has fundamental, financial backing of the company. It's either profitable or not, or growing or whatever it is.
It's got a service.
And so if somebody says something about the company and people lose faith in it, and there's emotional reactions, people are going to sell out. And then in investors, especially institutional investors, they've got price targets on all of these companies. And they say, look, this company is worth this much. And when that price drops below it, they just can go buy it. They know that it's a good buy, right? Yep. There's no question. With crypto, it doesn't have anything behind it. It just is.
The idea.
It's a collectible, right? People say it's a currency. It's a collectible. And not that it can't become a currency, but generally the driver of a currency is that it's backed by the government of that area. But not that it can't be a currency or be used that way, but it really is just a collectible that people are trading hands with, right? And Whereas, a lot of people want to take Bitcoin and say it's the digital gold. That's the famous saying. It's the
Yeah.
digital gold. It's the digital store of money.
Okay.
The
Ish.
difference is the difference is Bitcoin doesn't have any underlying value.
I disagree.
There's no value in manufacturing like it as a commodity, as a component, right? Gold is used in a lot of different manufacturing things, and it has a
Okay.
underlying need, right? It needs people use it, need it, and will need it in the future.
True.
So it
It's a
has a
luxury
need.
metal. Yeah.
It also a luxury metal. That's another one. But so it has needs and it's scarce. That's the big difference between gold and Bitcoin. There is no need for
Well,
Bitcoin.
there is a need, but it's not as large, right? The need would be the function of the coin, which is to transfer money across borders without getting taxed, basically. Basically, right?
Right, but
Secure
so
transactions.
there's a need for the service
Right. But
that
that's a
Bitcoin
very
provides,
small, right? Because that's
but it
transigent value. That's somebody
but
buys here, immediately transfers it, and somebody else cashes out in,
yeah, but
whatever other.
a lot of things provide that need. So what that's called in when you're like evaluating stocks and companies is called the moat. Right?
Hmm.
It's how difficult is it for another company or another entity or another thing to duplicate that service? Gold has a huge moat, right? It has elemental properties to it that nothing can duplicate. Its moat is massive, right? You can get close with other metals if you're looking at like electrical products and stuff, but from an anti-corrosive capability, gold is extremely strong. From a lot of other things that it can be used for, it's very, very strong and valuable. So it has a wide moat for those particular uses. Bitcoin has a narrow, if non-existent moat.
Hmm.
The services that it provides can be and have been in the past completely serviceable without Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
The
So, but it does other things, and I frankly don't understand all of its functions. But I mean, and then there's things like Ethereum. So Bitcoin being the OG, sort of like a transitory currency, or maybe a currency that like maybe crypto gold. Um, but Ethereum is supposed to be able to do a whole bunch of other stuff. It's like all about trusts and contracts and a whole bunch of stuff that I don't understand.
yeah,
But they do have certain functions, and there is a, let's say, an underlying piece of code that is the coin that is unique or traceable to you. So I mean there is technically an asset there, even if it's electrical in nature.
how is that different from a collectible?
It's not, but collectibles aren't used for currency, so to speak, where you can use this for currency. And it has, again, other functions like the Ethereum smart contracts and stuff
People
like that.
trade collectibles, but they're
Yeah, you're not going to
generally
buy pot with
traded.
your collectibles, though.
Yeah, you very well could. I mean, it's not used as a currency generally, no. But it's the underlying value of a collectible and Bitcoin to
Well,
me
okay,
is most similar.
so
But
all right.
let
But
me
our
answer a
currency is,
question.
hold on, let me say this, Tim. Our currency hasn't been backed by gold since what, the 70s? Right? So it's like the idea of the dollar, the supply demand of the dollar, how much is being printed, what you can basically, what we think the dollar is what it's worth. If the store is asking for $100 for a slice of bread, we're not going to pay that because that's not the value of it in our minds, right? But eventually it could be if there's hyperinflation. So there is a sort of a loose unbacked uh, element to the U.S. dollar. As a matter of fact, I saw a hilarious meme on r/cryptocurrency on Reddit, and it said something to the effect of, "Hey guys, I just got scammed by this absolute crap cryptocurrency. Don't buy this." And it was like, it's there's only one node. It's centrally managed. And they said a whole bunch of other crazy things about it that would make a really shitty cryptocurrency. And they're like, "Hey, just kidding. It's the U.S. dollar." It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, okay. So the Fed's manipulating our money. There is no gold backing it. Um, why not just switch to crypto, right? It's what you believe it is. If it has value, if you think it has value, it has value.
So hold on to that question, and I'll get to it in a second. But I want to answer something that was mentioned in chat. It says, crypto has exchange rates like the dollar versus the euro or, whatever.
Right.
And sort of. all an exchange rate is the comparison of value between two things. So I could have an exchange rate between Beanie Babies and baseball cards if I wanted to, right? I can trade 3 of these Beanie Babies for that baseball card, and now that's an exchange rate. So having an exchange rate doesn't necessarily mean that something is a currency or whatever. It's just people are willing to pay this many dollars or this many euros or this many
Yep.
et
It's just a
ceteras
comparison,
for
basically.
yeah, and it's just called an exchange rate because that's the rate of exchange. That's how much I can exchange this for that,
Yep.
right? So yeah, it does. They do have exchange rates, but that's not a driver of if it's a currency or not. Um, what was your topic that you said?
If you
Oh,
think it adds
the
value, it
dollar
adds
being a
value.
crypto. The difference for me is that the dollar is backed by a government and has regulations and other controls in place. And what you're seeing happening with Bitcoin
Mm.
um, is part of the reason why I think it in its current state at least and without regulation can't survive. And so let's say my name's Elon Musk, right? And I think I mentioned to this in joking before. Um, Daniel, you son of a I can't answer that question. Um, um, so let's say my name's Elon Musk, and like I said, I think we talked about this off camera before, but if I want to become the richest man on the planet, I go and buy any of these coins that are half a penny a piece,
Yep.
and then I just tweet, "This is my favorite coin."
Yeah,
Right?
the old pump and dump.
And yeah, so guess what is illegal in actual markets?
Yes.
Pumping and
Yes.
dumping,
Yeah.
doing
Yep.
exactly that. And actually, if you remember in the Wall Street bets GameStop craziness thing, the guys in Wall Street bets, the biggest ones, right? They were
Yep.
called to a hearing in front of the Senate to talk about this and to make sure that like they investigated to make sure it wasn't a pump and dump scheme because they would be put in jail for that. And the
Yeah, there
reason
were
that's illegal,
certainly there were certainly people who all right, we're getting off topic there. But I would say there were certainly people who did do that, but they probably weren't the big movers. The people who were big in that movement were famous because they were actively losing money towards the end. Right? That they were up, like to 14 million and then they were down 7 million and something like that.
yeah,
Diamond hands.
yep. So
But look,
there's
Tim,
no,
so that
but hold on. So there's no
yeah, go ahead.
regulation, right? So there's no
Okay.
regulation, and so it's easy to build hype or to buy and build a growth and then get that hype going and then sell off. And so that's what
Unless
happens.
okay, so it does happen, especially with most of the newer, smaller cryptos. But
Even
that's a
Bitcoin has
lot
happened.
harder to do unless you're Elon Musk. It's hard to do that when the market cap is $1 trillion for Bitcoin. Right?
I
It's going to be a
think
lot harder to move that.
I read somewhere that there's a total of like 3 million Bitcoin account holders, like holders of Bitcoin in accounts, and only about 1 million of them are currently active. Um, and
I don't know
so
what that means though. Are they just letting
either
it sit?
either they have it and are letting it sit, aren't buying or selling anything, or they sold out and or
Right.
have a little bit and forgot about it. Like I've got Bitcoin in a couple accounts here and there, but that
Oh,
I
there's a
bought
whole
back
bunch
in the
of
day.
there's a bunch of hard drives in landfills right now for people who bought,
No,
50
no,
coins when it was $1.
no BS. This is 100% true. He's one of my really good friends, super nerdy guy. Um, Back when Bitcoin was super fresh and new, he mined a whole bunch, lost his hard drive, had like 15 of them on there.
Ugh,
So
15.
somewhere he's got 15 Bitcoin. Um,
So that's about $1 million. Good God. Would have been.
yeah.
Not now.
Mm.
It'd be
Now,
like
now, had he
750.
been able to find it, s 6 years ago, he would have sold. Like, there's no way that he would have ever got to today.
No,
Probably.
exactly. He would have sold it off. But man, you
Um,
think that actually I don't know where I was going with that, but I read a story about some guy who's literally crawling through a landfill to find his hard drive. Right? Like he threw it out years
I
ago.
would
He
have.
knew which
Sure.
landfill it went into, but there was like $1 billion worth of Bitcoin on it.
Yeah, I'd have been doing it. Shit,
Right, yeah.
dude, I would have crowdsourced that.
Yeah,
I would have
exactly.
been.
Like we'll split this with everybody who
Yeah.
shows up based on timeshare. Like,
Yep.
but I
Exactly.
get half of it, but the rest of you we can divide it up, amongst two. Well,
Hmm.
that's actually brilliant. You should reach out
Yeah.
to that guy and then take 10%.
I get 10% for the idea.
Yeah, that
Shit
shit's
for
corroded
for
anyways.
$1 billion, the company'd be going in there too. They'd be like,
That's
"Sorry, you
true.
can't get on
That's
our
true.
land," and they'd
Yeah.
hire 1,000,000 people.
Jeez.
Um, so anyway, yeah, to your point though, the difference between the dollar and Bitcoin as far as its value, underlying value, is the same, right? There's no underlying value of the dollar,
That's
but
because
it's
you
not.
say there is none.
Well, there's a little bit, except it doesn't burn, so you can't use it for heat if the
True.
government crashed, right? Like,
Yeah. They're
some of
also
the
pretty. They
coins
have
you could,
portraits.
right? But generally, right, it's only valuable because the government backs it and it is treated
Yeah.
as the currency. And
So,
crypto,
but
any of the coins could become that, but they're not right now. And the
so
governments aren't backing them, and the
here's the
governments are more than likely going to
yes,
ban them.
the advantage and disadvantage of crypto. Okay, right. So what you were talking about right there, the regulation and government backing of money. That's a double-edged sword, right? So the managing of a currency means that you can also manipulate the currency, and we're seeing that right now with the money printer going burr, right? The government, the Fed's printing is not whoever they're printing as much money as they can as fast as they can, and they're injecting it into the economy, and this is resulting in, as we've started to see, inflation. So these decentralized coins you can't do that to them because they're not centrally managed by some people. They're a blockchain network that can't be manipulated by a single entity.
They are manipulated by a single entity named Elon. But
True, but let's say
um,
let's say that we get the market cap. Let's say that we completely switch everybody. We stop using the U.S. dollar and we put everybody in the United States' money into that. How much do you think that even Elon could make the price move?
if everybody's money was in there,
Yeah, like if we expand the market cap out to a country-sized economy, do you think
$1
Elon's really
trillion
going to?
is bigger than some countries.
That's true. That's true. The United States economy.
Um,
I think it stabilizes. What I'm trying to say is that, and then I'll get off this
the,
point, and we can move on to
the
another article.
the
The
biggest problem
larger,
is people are buying into this not because they believe in Bitcoin, but because they see how much it's gone up and they want to get a profit. That's driving so much of the demand, right? It's not
yeah,
because,
it's
hey,
driving a lot.
I think Bitcoin is actually legitimately a currency I'm going to use for something. It's, oh, it went up 100%. I want to catch another 100%. So as soon as somebody says the shit's going down or it drops a little bit or whatever, people are taking profits or cutting their losses or
Yeah.
getting
Well,
scared and just
I'm
bailing.
not going to argue that it's not volatile. It certainly is,
So
especially right now.
that's a big reason why. And then second to that, what do you think happens? So to counter your, well, what happens if it takes over the world? What happens if the U.S. comes out and says, uh, no business in the United States is allowed to accept Bitcoin, like
That
India
would
is
be
doing,
a death blow.
right? And so it's as simple as the United States saying, okay, so we're not going to be able to track this and tax it the way we want
Yep.
to, so
Yep.
it's gone.
Well, I would welcome them to try, but the big financial institutions are already getting in. And if you're a person that thinks lobbyists rule the country, which they don't, but if you are,
Yeah, but they're
then
going to know
that
ahead of
means
time. They're going to know
yeah. But
ahead of time.
well, my
It's gonna
point
be
is
like
that
Israel. U.S.
the
is going to call and
lobbyists
say,
wouldn't let it
hey,
happen.
hey, Associated Press, we're about to ban Bitcoins. You better get the shit out.
No, don't do it.
But
All
yeah,
right. Well, that's all
well,
I got
anyway,
on that.
it's yeah,
I You're
it's
obviously a
a.
non-believer, and it shows.
I'm not a non-believer in cryptocurrencies. I'm a non-believer in their current iterations actually surviving and taking over. Right. I do actually
Okay,
think that
that's fair
one day
enough.
I do actually think we're gonna go to digital currency at some point, but it's not gonna be, in my opinion, a decentralized coin. It's gonna be a centralized or in someday, probably not in my lifetime, but a global centralized entity
Ooh.
like a
Well,
whatever coin.
Bitcoin
But
is already globalized, except for Turkey, I think,
yeah,
and
but
maybe
Bitcoin,
China.
you
Turkey.
can't do transactions with Bitcoin. It's too expensive and slow, so it won't be Bitcoin. But
Yeah. Okay.
um, anyway, moving on. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, a website hiring professional protesters. It's not a conspiracy theory. So there's
Go
a
ahead.
website called Protest Jobs, and it says professional protesters for hire starting at $99. I don't know if that's an hour or a minute or a second because it's, didn't say. But right underneath that, it says this is a satire site and conservatives are idiots for thinking it's real. And still, some dumbass linked it and posted it as proof that their conspiracy theory is real.
Yep.
Oh, my
This is
goodness.
proof there's always going to be one, folks.
Oh,
Someone's going to do it. What is that subreddit? I love that subreddit where it's just people just taking stuff literally. It's like the Babylon Bee, the Onion. Ate
Not
the
the
Onion.
Onion is
Ate
one,
the
but
Onion. That's the
Onion.
subreddit. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't
I-
seen that one.
It's fantastic.
I'm not sure which one that one particularly came
It's
from.
all that kind of stuff. It's people just reading, something about how they'll just straight up post something ridiculous like Joe Biden confirmed to be a lizard person, and then there's always one asshole who thinks it's real and posts it on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Dude, that
you ready?
one just has to be a joke. Like
There
whoever
was.
posts
I remember that
yeah.
actually. There was. I did see stuff about professional people being paid. It's always Soros, right? But I did see that pretty compelling evidence that at least one time there were people who were paid to protest something. And I don't remember the full context. That sounds kind of lame. Like, who cares?
I'm
But
sure
apparently,
it happens. I'm sure.
I'm sure. Well, sure. One time, I think, at least. And then
Yeah,
I'm sure
it happens a fair amount. Like, but is it
it's
malicious
weird.
necessarily? I imagine it's more like, we haven't gotten our voice out enough or whatever. We need to show a stronger force. So we're doing it just for the sake of protesting, not
Right.
hey, I'm going to give you this money to go burn down CVS. Right.
Or it's also this fallacy where they think about people think that lobbyists to rule the country right now. It's like, it's like dark money, or not dark money. It's like, the NRA paying, buying off all these congressmen. It's like, no, actually the NRA gives money to people who already agree with them to help them with their campaign. I'm wondering if a lot of these conspiracies of protesters getting paid is just like, I'm already here to protest, and they're paying me. Oh, great. Like they're trying to pay my costs for, rent or fare or whatever it is, like to be in the city for the weekend. So they're just paying us, for hotels or something like that. I'm sure there's some of that going on too. I'd say more maybe than just paying random people to protest for your cause.
Maybe. What you got? Or you want me to go?
Yeah, let's do death penalty.
Hey, reset your camera. It went fuzzballs.
Did it really?
Mm.
How?
Just like I do it in OBS. I just turn it on and off. There you go. It's back anyway. Oh, bye-bye.
Oh, damn.
Now you're back again.
Am I good?
Yeah, you're
Everybody can see me? All right, cool. Well, can you see this?
Yeah,
So,
limited time offer, $4.99 a month.
I know. I gotta watch Tim Pool's podcast and see if he has ad blocker. I just don't even bother. I don't even see them anymore. I just tune everything out. It's crazy. Like, look at how much of this screen is dedicated to the actual product. There's a very tiny sliver of maybe like a quarter in the center of this screen. Then the top is a floating advertisement. This is an entire column. Oh, now we're floating. And then there's advertisement sandwiched in here. It's great. It's good. It's capitalism.
Advertisement sandwiches.
Hey, look, man, I didn't pay USA Today a single red cent to read this article. Not that it's worth very much. Actually,
that's that's a whole topic to be fun to talk about someday. Is just the I want everything free mentality we have.
Yeah.
Like, it's like you ever go to watch a TV show on like Amazon or whatever, and you're like $1.99. You're out of your mind,
you're out
dude.
of your mind. Pay for stuff.
I've never heard of this one here, and it looks like shit, but I'm not paying $1.99. I'm gonna watch this one for free. Screw that.
Man, the power of aggregated money is just freaking amazing. I was actually, because I wonder about weird stuff every now and again, but I was thinking about Amazon Prime's business model, and it's so insanely successful, but they give you so much stuff for your Amazon Prime subscription. Mm-hmm. It's insane. Number one, Amazon Prime doesn't sponsor us, so I wish they would, but they don't. So I'm not shilling for them, but holy crap, the amount of stuff that you get. They're coming out with full-on TV shows. They are producing They are
Oh, they've done it
directing.
already. They've been for
They're
years.
making
They've been doing it.
movies. They're making TV
Yeah.
shows, and you get
They
it
got a
all
video
of it.
game coming out, but you don't get that for Amazon Prime.
Oh
You'll
yeah,
have to
I
pay for
remember
it.
hearing about that. I heard they canceled one. Anyways, getting
They've
off
canceled a
topic here.
few, but yeah, they're into everything. That's the thing with Amazon, though. Is they used to be we sell everything from A to Z, and now our company is everything from A to
Yeah.
Z.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to your death
Anyways,
by firing squad.
firing squads. So firing squads might be coming back. And as usual, I'm probably not going to read too much of this article here, but South Carolina, evidently they're running out of the drugs, or the drugs are too expensive for executing people. And so now they're thinking about just bringing the firing squad back. And I don't know what to think, except for it's hilarious, and maybe that reaction isn't appropriate, but I don't care. I don't know. What do you think of that? The firing squad coming back?
My first thought was, okay, so lethal injection is the best of the best, right? It's the one that deals the least amount of pain from what I understand. I know that there's been mistakes and like shit's gone really bad, but the idea is it puts you to sleep, then it kills you. You don't feel any pain.
Right.
That's like going to sleep. But I mean, some states still use the electric chair. How's that not worse than a firing squad? How's that not worse than a firing squad?
I don't know how that was ever. So maybe, hopefully, there's some historians in the audience. How was that ever? Did anybody ever decide that was a good way to kill somebody? Right, especially in our Constitution, it says no. What is it? Unreasonable or extreme punishment or whatever. I forget what the exact wording is, but like you're not allowed to be cruel.
Why can't we just give everyone? Why can't we just give everyone like a 10 times dose of like meth or something?
Oh God, yeah.
Like, let them be happy
like
for like 30 seconds. Yeah, let them be happy. Let them be on fucking cloud 9 before they fall asleep and die.
Like, how
do you run out of meds to kill somebody? Like,
no, I think it might be, like I said, I think it might be an expense thing. So I think it's companies are becoming woke and ethical, and they're like, well, I'm a pharmaceutical company. I'm not supplying you drugs to kill people anymore because I disagree with the death penalty. And then these guys over here are like, well, hey, you got to get them from us now because they stopped selling them. So that's going to be like $1,000 per milliliter. So I think generally it's getting harder it's getting harder for them to acquire it. It's getting more expensive, so they're starting to look at alternatives.
So it's like insulin then, right? It's like, hey, we can charge whatever we want because you have to buy it. Gotcha.
When's the patent for that going to run out? I hear they've been okay. I'm sorry. Now we're jumping back to.
They keep making new ones. No, I've got some insulin stuff. We can talk about.
Oh, really? I didn't. Okay. All right. Well, so that's on topic for the future. So what do you think? Firing squad.
I don't know. I'm not that torn against it. I think, so let me take a step back. I think if you're for the death penalty, what the fuck's the difference? Like, it's not like I'm going to say I'm for the death penalty if you do lethal injection, but not if you shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want you to like have me out there that sucks at aiming and just riddle their arms and legs, and they just sit there bleeding out for hours, right? That wouldn't be the right way. But I mean, at this point, just rig up one of those robots.
Yes,
it won't miss. Whatever.
No, yeah, not a robot. Like you just.
I know. We'll get Mark Wahlberg to do it. That guy never misses. In all
any of
his
sniper
movies. Yeah. Mark Wahlberg, he's the new guy.
That's a good movie, bro. I've been wanting to watch that again.
He's done a few. Yeah, they've been good. So at the end of the day, like, yeah, it's crazy, but like, I don't. If you're for the death penalty,
right?
Does it really matter other than if you're torturing or being cruel?
Right. There was some issues. I think the original problem with it is like, even despite the fact that you've got, a whole quartet of people shooting at you, sometimes they miss your heart and you don't
want to shoot them in the heart. You still have like 30 seconds or a minute of awareness. You want to shoot them right in their head.
They don't shoot them in the head though. That's not how it works.
I know I think that's the problem is.
You think so?
The same thing goes with the electric chair. Like you sit there and watch them like being not dead for a while, right?
Probably not. If this ain't your first rodeo, you probably just shoot them and start cleaning your rifle while they're dying. Like, you probably stop caring after.
No. I mean the electric chair is not instant either. That was the point I was making.
No, honestly,
But that,
firing squad over electric chair. I think.
yeah, I think lethal injection and then meth overdose are my two favorite. Like they just need.
That's very interesting. I think I like that idea probably more than anything. Honestly, it's like that's a humane way to kill them. But
Yeah.
let's stick on
Or
the
I heard,
firing
I hear,
squad.
I hear. I would say fentanyl, but like you don't really know how much is a lethal dose. So there's
Right.
charts and stuff, but we've had some recent cases that are make it clear you can have like 8 times the lethal dose and still be good to
You
go.
know what
So
though? So your pharmaceutical solution is going to run into the same problem most likely, where people are just going to stop selling them to you because they know that you're using them for the death penalty. The price is going to go up. People are going to ethically
any,
stop supplying you.
I
I
don't
think you'll
think
run
so.
into the same problem. Right, like for
I
all
don't
we
think you
know,
will
the
because
solution that they use is pure heroin, right? Or, a drug that we're familiar with and they just overdose people with it. For all we know.
so just set up a meth lab right out behind the prison. Like all
And
the
if it
guys in there
explodes
can
and
make it
kills
for
them
you.
first,
Just be
you
like,
did your
look,
job,
hey,
man.
who in here knows how to make meth? We'll give you
Yeah.
extra yard
So
time if you
don't
got
be
here and
shy.
make us
Don't
a
be
batch
shy.
real
We're
quick.
going to give you extra money.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like you're already in prison. We're not going to count this against you. Just go out there and make us a batch, so we can use it for death row over here.
So let me. So this becomes so weird. So we have the capability of, okay, so let's start with this firing squad. Okay, you got these happy gentlemen up here. They got their smoothbore muskets, and then they shoot you until you're dead. Okay, one shot, one volley, and then they go about their business. Okay, so if we're bringing back firing squads, why do we have to have the men? Right. So you hit on it for a little bit there. You said, okay, we could get a robot and it won't miss. Well, okay, so the logical extension of that is like, okay, if we're not having a human do it, we can just mount a gun that's perfectly lined up on the heart. Maybe 2 or 3 guns, maybe like an organ gun or a Gatling gun or something like that. That's perfectly lined up, and then you just attach the person to where the gun is going to shoot, and then you just press a button and shoot the gun. Right? You don't have to have a firing squad. That's number one. Number two, why are you using a gun? Why not a cannon? Right? A cannon will just obliterate them. You know what I'm saying? Like you could just like line them up against the seawall and just shoot their top half out into Argentina.
Why not that thing from No Country for Old Men? If it's good enough for cattle, right? If you think it's good enough for cattle to be human, it's a air compressor hooked up to just a cylinder in a tube, and it just like pops out. Right? That's what they use to kill cattle. You just put it up against the head and pop, and it goes in and hits the brain.
So
and
it's like a pneumatic gun.
Yeah, except the cylinder just retracts and you use it again. It like just pops out, and then you put it back in or something like that.
I don't know, man. Look, all I'm saying is that it opens up a whole bunch of different questions. Like a firing squad sounds like you just don't need a firing squad.
Yeah, I think they just needed some attention, some media or something.
You think you don't think it's gonna happen?
No. But Amanda brought up a point similar to you, Amanda in chat. She said, what's especially cruel is having an audience for it. And she said, big yikes. I kind of agree. Like, I mean, on one hand, if somebody was getting electrocuted, I've never seen it. I don't know if I'd want to or not, but maybe I would want to.
I'm pretty sure they do audiences.
I know they do. Yeah, but she's saying why, and she also said all you need is one grenade. I don't agree with the grenade thing. Grenades kill mostly from shrapnel, and that's unpredictable. You never know where it's going to go.
Yeah, grenades aren't exactly what you think they are. Like if you had a grenade strapped to somebody's head, sure, like that'll obliterate the head, and it'll be messy, but they'll be dead instantly. Sure, but other than that, like if he just like lob it at the ground at his feet, like you probably just like should blow one of his shins off, and then he's got a case against the state.
Dude, or I mean, there's so many different things you could use. Laughing gas, right? Like anything that just like slowly makes you're like,
yeah. I'm just thinking though, like all of those clinically anesthetic.
No, dude, they're so widely available. Widely available.
Okay, I get it,
and it's the government. So the government could just be like, hey, because it's us. Hey, Mr. Dentist, you can sell us your laughing gas. Like
you say that, but right now, people are ethically withholding their product, and I don't think the government can make people. The government can't make people sell things they don't want to.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the watching of it. I mean, on one hand, like I think it takes a special person to want to see that, and that's not the kind of special
I think
person
it's usually
I want to
victims'
be.
families.
But well, yeah, that's one thing, right? Is the families want to be with them, and I get that. But there's always media and other people in there. I don't know. I don't know
I
how I
don't have
feel
much of
about
a
it.
problem with it at all, honestly. So normally I'll have like an emotional reaction when somebody brings up something contentious like that. When you said that, when you read out the comment, I have no strong feelings one way or the other. I don't see why it's an issue. I mean, you're dying. You're mostly focused on the fact that you're going to die. I don't think that you really care that people are watching, because it's like
Yeah, I don't know.
it's. I think it's hard to be embarrassed about something that it's. I think it's hard to be embarrassed right next to your death. You
I
know.
think her point, and well, she just confirmed with her post. I was going to say I thought her point was more about the people watching, like a statement about the people wanting to watch rather than maybe it being them. But she said live action snuff films, and that's the point I was trying to get to too. Is like I don't I don't know. Like there's a certain level of intrigue or curiosity or whatever that comes with that. Like
Morbid curiosity. Yeah.
I remember this is years and years. I mean, 10 or 15 years ago at least. Somebody, maybe a trucker or something, got captured in the Middle East, and they beheaded him, and the video got
Yeah.
released.
Yep.
And I watched the video out of curiosity. I
Yeah.
didn't I and it haunts me every single day. Like if I think about it at all, like it's I wish I never looked at it ever, right? It's one of those like
Yeah.
people joke about once you see something you can't know. This like changed my mentality on things by watching it. It was so terrible
Yep.
and horrible.
Yep.
But
There was
I
some
did
time.
watch it the first time, right? Like I wish I didn't. And now that I did, but I did. And so there's some level of like curiosity that people might have or whatever. But there's plenty of sick fucks that just want to go out and watch it over and over. And
Yeah, but
that's
I don't think that's a problem in this context. So from what I understand, it's all family that's allowed in there, right? We don't. Or it's all the people that either deserve to be in there because they're family members of the victim, or they're the family of the person themselves. Like I don't think they just open it up to the public. I don't think. I mean,
okay.
they used to do that back in the 1800s for all the hangings, but I think
Yeah.
that's been. I think generally the government agrees with you, Amanda.
Yeah. So I've got one that we can pull up if we're all done on that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a new article by NPR. So what we know so far about the Trump Organization criminal
Yeah, I
investigation, and
saw this.
it's long. There's so much stuff in here. So let me summarize it for you. Uh, a couple prosecutors got together. They're trying to charge him with stuff. That's what we know so far. That's it.
Figured
So
as much. So we've known that for like 3 or 4 years now.
yeah, like how is this still news? I read this and I was like, huh, okay, I've heard
I've
this is
read
going
several
on.
articles. Like every month, I read an article about prosecutors in the Southern District of New York are moving in on Donald Trump. Arrests could happen every week now, and I just keep thinking about QAnon. Right, every month, somebody at QAnon posts Donald Trump is coming back to the White House on today. A bunch of arrests are about to take place. Get ready. Like buy food, get ready. It's like the exact same thing, except it's a posh upper class liberal elite writing the article.
Yeah, it's annoying. Like I I know this stuff's going on. I know there's investigations. When there's information, put it out there.
Right. Yeah.
But like garnering clicks with this, like I mean, it's not. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not. It's kind of clickbaity, but it's true. It's like here's what we know. Jack shit,
Still
right?
clickbait.
Like they could have summarized it with one word there. Jack shit. We don't know anything.
It's kind of
It's
like how every
super
article about
frustrating.
Mars, regardless of what it's about, they'll say life on Mars, even though so allegedly, just real quick, we can dip into this. If you ever read an article about life on Mars, it is 100% clickbait with extra information, right? So there's an article about some aspect of Mars that we've just discovered, and they say potential signs of life, or they'll say that could indicate there was life there in the past. Apparently, NASA 100% conclusively ruled that there is no life on Mars. We know that, right? Because
No, they did not.
some
They did
smarties.
not.
Yes, they did. So I'm telling
No,
you
they did
that
not.
I have heard this before conclusively stated that.
So one of the people who was responsible for the latest rover mission in NASA recently, I was watching an interview with them, and they said one of the goals for them for this rover is to test technology that they can put on the next trip there to continue to look for life on Mars. So they have not conclusively come out and said there's no life on Mars. They
All
have
right,
come
so
out so far and said we
you
don't
gotta let me
have
finish
any
though.
evidence of life on Mars. No, you misspoke, and I will make sure that that's not
No, sir.
out there.
Even with everything that you just said, I will still conclusively say that they know that there's no life there. The reason why they give those interviews and they say those things and they couch their missions and searches for life is because that's the only thing that the public is interested in. And if the public is not interested in the Mars rovers, then NASA doesn't get any funding.
If you
So they have
find
to
any
couch.
scientist that says we know for sure there's no life on Mars, that person should not be a scientist.
Oh my God. How about there's a very, very statistically low probability that there's life on Mars, and they know that, but they still couch these things in terms of we're searching for life, even though they're really just doing scientific missions.
I'm not saying there's a high probability, but
No,
to
it's
come
like
out and
close
say
to zero, is what I'm saying.
it's not. It's well, I don't know. I don't know what the percentage is, but um, I mean they've taken tardigrades and other microbes from the planet and
Yep.
gone up into
Yep.
space, and they survive in space,
Yes,
right?
they get vacuum
Um,
compressed and then they uncompress.
and so they survive and have no issues. There's microbes that they've been finding. I don't know how far deep, but like down at the bottom of the ocean, then down X deep into the soil.
Yep.
These microbes that survive down there, and it used to
Yep.
be that they thought nothing could survive without sunlight, but these things just suck up the energy from the thermal vents and other
Yep.
things.
Yep.
And they've come out and believe that Mars used to be a planet that could be habitable to life,
Yeah.
right? It used to
So
be suitable for that, had the right atmosphere, potentially had good temperatures for
yeah,
it.
I
So,
know. I know.
so
I've read all the articles.
if it had life,
All
and even if it was only microbial,
yes.
and that life still is existing, half a mile deep in the soil or something on a microbial level, there's no way we know or don't know.
Right. So that is theoretically how life could exist on Mars, and it is true that it could theoretically exist on Mars. So what I'm telling you is that um, all of those articles that you read and all that stuff that flows out of NASA, they deliberately say that. And they play up the fact that life could be there when they really don't believe that it is there. It is literally a PR
Please,
campaign to
please
get
send
interest.
me your source that says that. Now, I'm not
Yeah,
saying
I
they
read
don't
this a
play it
long
up a
time
bit.
ago. I'm not even trying to convince you. I'm just trying to clearly state my case here.
Yeah,
I
you're
read
just
this
being a
a while ago.
conspiracist. It's fine.
I
Be a
do,
conspiracist.
except what's more of a conspiracy? Believing that there's life or was life on Mars, or being realistic about the chances?
You're not being realistic. You came out and said that there is no life on Mars. That's your wording, and we can replay because we have this shit recorded, bro. So it's fine. But you said that, and that's not the case. I am realistic about it, but I also think that it's a conspiracy to come out and say they're only interested in it from the pure
Yeah,
aspect of funding.
I'll look it up. I'll send you an article. I'm not so thoroughly
Daniel
invested in
said
this.
he's from Mars. So Daniel from chat, he said he's from Mars. That's what he said.
I
So
don't
he
believe it.
said he's a
I've
Martian.
known him for a long time.
You're right. He didn't say that. He said they'd have to dig up every square inch of soil and drill all the rocks. Well, and that's right, Daniel. To your point, it's very
Daniel,
very
you're talking
hard.
about proving the
Yeah, it's very
positive.
hard to prove a negative.
Yes.
No, prove a negative. And yeah, it's very hard. And usually you can't. A lot of times, like prove that I didn't do something.
Right. So
Unless
I
that
would
action
never
had a result.
I would never claim conclusively that they don't know that there's life on Mars. As a matter of fact, I mean there probably is life on Mars. At least one tardigrade probably went there on the on the rover.
I saw
But
an article on that recently saying
the
that
point,
if they find life, it's probably from Earth.
yeah, it's probably from them. Yeah. The point being, you can do things. So one of my favorite classes that I ever took was astronomy, and in that class, I really learned two things about the scale of the universe and the power of numbers in interpreting the scale of the universe. And you can do really clever things by using inductive reasoning, figuring out what's true here, what's true here, what's true about life that we understand, what's true about this, what's the scale of the universe, what's the chances that this, the chances of that. And it's just like the chances of life evolving on the same planet or on another planet in our solar system is just like so below the floor of possibility. It is almost literally zero.
That's only true because of what our current view of life is. Now, imagine just for a second that one of these expeditions to Mars finds that there are microbial life on Mars.
Mm-hmm.
It now becomes extremely rare that a solar system doesn't have life in it somehow or some way. It goes from being an extremely rare event happening at all to being extremely rare that it doesn't happen some way. The only reason that that's the current belief or thought is because we don't have evidence otherwise, not necessarily because it can or can't happen or is that common. And that's the difficulty of this conversation is, one, we're looking for life that looks like us. Why does life have to look like us?
That's not necessarily true.
I don't mean me and you. I don't mean me and you. I mean like life that we've observed on this planet, right?
Yeah.
And when we talk about what conditions does it take to bring about life, that's what we talk about, right? The conditions that it takes to bring about life is we're aware that survives or can be created for, like we saw on this planet. There may be plenty of other types of life forms that form, right? Carbon is thought to be the best because of how it interacts chemically with other things,
right?
Water being needed for that. But who knows at extremely high or low temperatures that we aren't familiar with because we get obliterated or frozen solid if other materials don't interact the same way. There's materials that we can't create that don't last more than a millisecond if we do create them that may
because
exist.
They're highly radioactive.
They're highly unstable, not necessarily radioactive.
Well, that's what radioactivity is, right? So you're shedding neutrons, I think it is, or protons.
But it's possible that at massively cold temperatures, they're very stable. I don't know for sure. I'm just speculating.
I think you're right about that, but neither of us is a physicist. Tim, you are closest. You are an engineer, I hear.
Dude, I did take some
math in college.
I'm a Renaissance man. I know a lot of things, but very little about all of them.
I know very little about many things. All right, I don't even remember what we were talking about. I'm so sorry.
We were talking about the best quote you've ever heard from Joe Biden. We were talking about that. I'm going to pull that up. All right. Let me know if you can't hear this. But so Joe Biden apparently is test driving and this isn't bullshit or a joke or a meme. I know I do that sometimes. This is like legit. Joe Biden is test driving a Ford electric pick-em-up truck. Okay.
You call it a pick-em-up truck?
It did.
Oh my God.
You like that? Pick-em-up truck.
Mr. President!
This sucker's quick.
How's it drive? How does it feel? President, would you buy one of these?
I would.
How does it
First off, Ford just got the president of the United States to say, I would buy one of these, right? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But
feel to be behind the wheel, sir?
It feels great. I tell you what. Now, I don't know if anybody has a stopwatch, but I think if we're going 0 to 60 in about 4.3. 4.4? Right. 4 flat?
Well, we haven't released it, President.
I should be quiet.
Mr. President, how fast is it going?
Oh, did he just... Oh, God.
Okay, I'm just going to...
yeah, so he's like, I think this goes 0 to 60 in 4.3.4, and he asked the Ford guy, what is it? And the guy's like, we haven't released that, Mr. President.
That's the president conducting cyber espionage against our own people.
But that's not the quote. It's coming up. It's about Israel. So listen to his answer when the journalist says, can I ask you a question about Israel real quick?
I'm going to step on it. I'll come off at 80 miles an hour. You'll see what it is, okay? Ready?
Mr. President, can I ask you a quick question on Israel before you drive away?
No, you can't. Not unless you get in front of the car as I step on it. I'm on the tease.
Did you hear what he said?
Did he just say, how about you get in front of the car so I can step on it?
He said, not unless you get in front of the car when I step on it.
Oh, my God. Listen, man, that's funny. That's actually funny.
And then he says, I'm just teasing. But I was like,
that's hilarious.
I was watching this and I was like, holy shit, did he just say that?
When was that? Yesterday?
The video came out yesterday. I don't know when the actual thing went. But
listen,
but then, all right.
Say, I'm proud none of my boys picked it up and were like, look at what the president said. He's a monster. He's a Marxist monster.
To be honest, I think there are some liberal media that would pick that up and rip on it, right? Like I do
I
think.
doubt it.
Imagine if that was Trump. Now Trump would
if
have
it was
said
Trump
something.
for sure.
Now it depends on how it was said too. Trump would have been like said something like, "You should just You should just get in front of the truck and let me run you over." Like they might have said a little more in a different way.
Trump did have a very. I know you guys don't know this because you just hated the guy, but he had a very joking personality, a lot like that, especially in smaller settings.
Yeah, I never saw much of his humor, but so anyway, let's finish the video and watch how fast this damn thing takes off.
Okay, here we go.
Is it fully electric?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fully
looks
electric pickup truck. So he's pulling away from the crowd, being responsible.
Yep.
You know, this guy's
Doesn't
like, "Hey,
want
let
to
me get really
fishtail out
close."
and hit somebody. Nice for
You
a
can,
cameraman.
yeah, hold on. So you can watch it. It's him driving it through this whole video, but
That's
he like
snappy,
stops and he stops and takes off a few times. But let me see if I
God, can
find a
you
better-
imagine like everybody, all the engineers sweating through their palms, like, oh my God, he's gonna roll this thing. Please
Here you
don't
go.
roll
Watch. You can watch it a little. I mean, it's distance, but like, it just goes.
Wow, that thing rips.
Yeah. It's fucking great. Anyway, I loved that when I was watching that and he said that, man.
That's like
Yes.
that's a funny grandpa moment right there. I like it.
How about you step in front of the truck and let me floor it?
It's a good thing he said I'm just teasing though. You know, I don't know who would take that out of like maybe it's an assault on the media there, but I mean it's probably a good thing he said that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's funny. Old Grandpa Joe.
On a more serious one, have you been following the Andrew Brown stuff at all?
A little bit. I heard there was a ruling on that. So
Well,
give a little bit of context to the audience.
They decided not to prosecute. All right, so the body cam footage hadn't been released in the past, up until a couple days ago.
A broader context. What happened with
So I think it was the sheriff's department, but whoever, the police department area was serving a warrant on a criminal. They packed a bunch of people in the back of a pick 'em up truck to go. You can't take anyone serious. It says pick 'em up truck. It immediately dives down into kindergarten territory, and that's where I live. So
you're from Ohio. It's expected.
Yeah. So they pull up with all the guys in the back, and they hop out, surround this guy's car because I guess he was in his driveway getting in his car to leave.
Yep.
And he pulls to try and drive away and run away from the cops, and they open fire and kill him. Prior to a couple days ago, the body cam footage wasn't released. All that was known is basically what I just told you, except it was specifically stated that the driver was targeting the officers with the car. I believe that's how it was stated.
I didn't even hear that. The last I heard with the sensational news stories was that he was like sitting in his driveway and they shot him in the back of the head, essentially. Like he was sitting in his car in his driveway and they shot him in the back of the head. That was so maybe like, look, so from what I understand, that wasn't actually the way that the media left it, but that was my recollection from all the stories that I heard.
Yeah. It may be that's what was said. I mean, you can watch the video, but that's
right.
So anyway, why this is becoming a big news again now is the DA has decided not to prosecute any of the officers. So black man gets shot and killed by the officers, no prosecution, regardless if it's right or wrong. It's going to make news. I think this one walks the line a little bit, in my opinion. Yeah, and so if they're clear one way or the other, they usually don't get too big in the news.
They don't
blow up because
nobody cares because it's not controversial. Right, and that actually kind of speaks to the motive for all of the people like us, all of the activists, everybody who likes talking about this stuff. That actually speaks to the motives. It's not that our side clearly won and the other side is bad. It's that we know that this is close to the line, so that there will be people on the other side of the line that we can lambast for being bad people. Otherwise, like we don't like the truly egregious, let's say police killings that are that the cop is immediately arrested, fired, and then prosecuted. They don't make national news because there's no controversy there, right?
Like this one here. Like this one.
God.
Whap!
Oh my God, I love that GIF. That would be
All right,
like
he's walking away. I knew he was going to do that. That's the only reason I'm laughing. That had to hurt like a bitch, and I feel
He
bad
had
for the
to.
guy, but
Like, this guy's being a punk too, right? He deliberately walks into the cop, and the cop's like having a bad day.
he just
Look,
blasts him,
it is
like,
police brutality.
point blank.
He shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have done it, but I don't know. The guy kind of deserved that.
that one's crazy. But anyway, so that one most people don't disagree with, right? Like, yeah, that guy probably shouldn't have shot him point blank in the chest with whatever he had in his gun.
Yeah.
Regardless, but yeah. So this one's a bit controversial. So let's run through. I have there's two body cam footages that I know of that got released. So we'll watch through both of them. And then let's talk about and just see like your thoughts on justified or not. And then I also think that them shooting was more dangerous than just letting him go.
Yeah, it depends on the full context, but go ahead.
Based on the background and what's happening and who their bullets could get to and stuff. So pay attention to that as well when you're watching. There we go.
Field police body cam video of the shooting for the first time. Sheriff's deputies fired into Brown's car while trying to serve an arrest warrant last month. His family.
All right, so that's it. So he's shot at that point. They all run up to the car. He's already dead. But let me scroll back to this frame here. Let me see.
There's a lot of background there. There's a house back there.
Like watch the minivan pull. Like they're shooting right now. Watch the minivan pulling away from being right in front of that car. Look at that.
Yeah, the
minivan driving
last month.
There was
and there's a house right there too.
In that car.
Oh, really? In the minivan?
Yep.
Ah, okay. And then there's a house right behind it too. So like maybe they're just great shots and they're not going to miss. And I get that there's confidence in their abilities, but
that's usually not the case, especially with a pistol.
Well, a couple of them have assault rifles.
Yeah, I trust their shots a little bit more.
But that guy right there's got an assault rifle. A couple of them do. But anyway, so the second body cam footage, I believe they're in the back of the pickup truck. Yeah, so you can see them pull up and how fast this all happens. And I think this guy has an assault rifle, actually. One of the two did.
Yes, he does. I want it.
So, another body cam view of the same activity.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
I've always been uncomfortable with shooting people that are fleeing. Generally speaking, right? I mean, obviously, in some cases, it's absolutely unwarranted, right? You don't just shoot somebody who's running away from you. I think some of the context that was missing there was at least briefly dragging an officer by the hand because he grabbed onto the door handle to try to rip it open, and then he started driving off with it.
We saw footage from both sides of the car. I didn't see that, but I'm not saying that didn't happen.
That was reported. So I read an article about it. So I can't confirm that, right? The body cam, I wouldn't say confirms that. I don't know. I think it's maybe, man, it's tough.
I agree. I don't like. I think officers. So let me say it this way: like I'm not convicted one way or the other, but my general feeling is not just from this case. My general feeling is that officers get too upset when you don't listen and run and flee, and there's like this disrespect thing
like,
that
how
happens.
dare you? I can't let you trample on my
so
authority.
And so that like leads into like, I'm not letting you get away. I can't let you get away. Like, and there's this agreement from the past, at least, of society and police departments to say, if this person's going to potentially pose a danger, like maybe this guy was being arrested for murder, and you could say, well, we can't let him get away because he poses a danger.
Right. From what I understand,
society.
It was just a drug raid.
Yeah, right. You know, so I don't know. Like my feeling on this particular one is they shouldn't have been shooting. But at the same time, like, look at what they pulled up with, and he still got away. If they wouldn't have shot, he gets away.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You know, so it's just
And so what level
obligatory.
do
I
you
have
have
to
to
say this because
serve?
I've been reminding myself every time we talk about these incidents. I have to say this, right? Because again, we're talking about towing the line in a controversial way. This is another incident of if you just listened to the cops, you wouldn't be dead, right? And I don't. That's not even a statement that says you deserve to be dead or even that you forfeited your life. That is, if you listen to the cops, you would be alive right now, right? Cops serving the law, right? Arresting you for being a drug dealer. Not that I agree with the war on drugs, but they're just doing their job, right? So if you just listen to them, you would be in jail, you wouldn't be dead. Okay. So that being said, right, we can move back to whether they should have shot or not. I
Yeah,
might go with no on this, right? If I had to make a determination, they probably shouldn't.
yeah.
But it's such a
Okay.
soft no that I don't know whether I I would fire the cops. I might just discipline them.
Do you
I don't
think
know.
the DA would have the ability to convict anyone?
It depends. We would have to look at the statutes in the state. We'd have to look at the training that they receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ben Crump, I'm sure you've heard that name.
Oh
He's
yes.
been he's been the lawyer for a lot of these cases. He is apparently the lawyer for the family in this one. How many states does that guy have a license to
I
practice
don't
in, I
know.
wonder? But anyway, um, he made an interesting comment that if is true, I think the DA should have at least pursued it and let the court decide.
So
Which
before
was
before we talk about what he said, I just want to say he's known to the right, and I'm not going to say whether this is true or not, or whether I think it's true. He's known to the right as a professional race baiter. He essentially goes around the country. He shows up
yeah,
at all
yeah.
these, and
No,
he
I agree.
immediately
Yep.
says it's murder every time. I
Yeah, I
tend to
agree.
believe he
100%.
inflames quite a bit, but
I agree 100%, and that's why I say if what he said is true, and this is
right,
coming from me, logic brain boy. So
right,
it's
and
not
a
like
broken clock can be right, twice a day,
yeah.
or
So
maybe
what he
once a day.
said was these cops fired against policy by firing into a moving vehicle.
Yeah. So if okay, so if that's true, yes. Okay.
Right. That to me is like, okay, they broke policy, and as we
Right.
just saw in a very recent famous case against some George guy,
Yes.
George something, uh, George Floyd. Um,
Some low profile case. You wouldn't
by
know.
using force and breaking profile, oh my goodness, by breaking
Or whatever.
the policy, yeah, thank you. Um, it can result in it being a criminal charge. So
Yeah.
if the case is that they did break that policy, if that's a policy, then I do think the DA should have brought charges. If they didn't really break
Yes.
any policy and it's just yeah, that looks rough. I don't know if they should have shot or not. Like, like if the DA truly believes there's and he's not bringing charges for the sole reason of I truly believe no law was broken. There's no way for me to prosecute this case. And that's what he's there to do. That's
Right.
his. That's what he
Not
does.
even a potential case, right? So
That's what I
I'm
mean. Yeah. Right.
yeah. I think my guess, just to we're speculating here because we're not aware of all the statutes. My guess is that if the DA or whoever was in charge of this, if he didn't press charges, especially in this climate where you're under a
Yeah.
magnifying glass, I think
Yeah.
whatever statutes are in there are pretty broad and probably covered what they did on the car.
I imagine. Yeah. That was my feeling too. Is that I don't expect in this environment they'd be able to get away
Right.
with not pressing charges if it was not
Right.
clear cut
Right.
that there
It
was
probably
no way to do it.
yeah. So
But
that's my
I
thought.
thought
I don't
that was
know.
an interesting one because to me
Does
that
anybody?
was
What do
Mm.
people in chat think of that? I'm curious as to what everybody thinks.
Amanda said, why do they need all the force to arrest him to begin with? Was he really a dangerous person? I think the reason being is when you're serving a warrant, especially on drug charges, a lot of times drug dealers and people associated with drugs, they're armed and
Yes, very armed.
try and defend themselves, right? So
Yeah, there's
uh,
probably intel behind the scenes that we don't know about. I'm assuming, and number one, your job as a police officer is not to match the force. Your job is to figure out what force they're at and then overmatch that force, overwhelm that force. So if you have one guy with an AK, you show up with 6 AKs and a sniper on the roof, right? Like your job is to be over and above, um, and that just, in this case,
Yeah.
made it easier for them to kill because they had a couple long guns there and a bunch of pistols.
Oh, Danny Boy says he doesn't have much of an opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Everybody's required to have an opinion on everything these days, and I suppose that's our job here on the show. But
Maybe
that one,
we should change the name of our show to "I Have an Opinion."
yeah,
What do you think?
I have an opinion, and we'll come up with a really lame.
I have an opinion. See, that was wrong. I shouldn't make fun of that speech.
That's sacred. How dare you?
I know. Dude, I make fun of everything, and I do it in a loving, respectful way. Right?
Mhm.
I don't mean any disrespect. On a similar topic, did we talk about this case? I think we did. Get out of
Yeah,
here,
I think so.
Denver Post.
Yeah.
So if you guys whoever's here weren't watching when we covered this, this is a pretty old lady, I think in her 60s or 70s. I mean, she's
Yep.
old and she has dementia. This cop ended up separating her shoulder and doing some
Slammed
other
her
damage.
down.
Yeah.
Dislocated her shoulder and broken arm or something like that. Like she got
Yep.
messed up.
Yep. And then bragged about it basically on camera.
God, yeah.
In the jail cell. It's ugly. You knew something bad was going to happen to this guy, and it did. Right? They criminally charged him for the arrest. 73. There you go. They criminally charged him for this arrest. I don't know exactly what all the charges are, and obviously it still has to go through trial and things. But I mean, this one was just insane. Like, literally, all that for $13.
Yeah,
worth of
I gotta
merchandise.
say, I don't appreciate that line when the left uses it either. And let me explain why. So, for example, I think Freddie Gray was the one, or I think it was Freddie Gray was, according to Black Lives Matter, what they say is that he was killed over selling cigarettes, like like $10 worth of cigarettes or something like that. And it's like, well, no, he was killed while resisting arrest, right? Which now, obviously, in this case, that was an egregious abuse of power, and the left thinks that was an egregious abuse of power there. But to say that you were killed over $13 of merchandise or selling cigarettes,
I agree. I meant the level of escalation. Like,
yeah, I get it, but that doesn't paint the whole picture, right? She has dementia, so she wasn't complying with orders. Is the more accurate thing to say? It's the non-sensational, more accurate thing to say.
But when you watch that video, it's clear that the cop was just annoyed that she wasn't listening and was like, "Fuck you! I'm gonna slam you to the ground."
Look,
then
I'm not saying that it was a good.
But
thing.
I agree. I agree with you. It's not fair to say, "Oh, you stole $13. I'm going to dislocate
right now. I'm
going
to throw you on the ground."
That's not how the escalation path happened. It's just that, like, I guess what I meant is from her life standpoint, looking at it is like, like she stole $13 worth of stuff and ended up with this effect. Like that level of escalation should stop somewhere.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to say about that is that, anecdotally, for those who think that for those who buy into the narrative, whether a lot or a little, that that black people are mistreated by police in the United States, I saw a carbon copy of this story where there was an elderly black woman who I believe also had dementia or some kind of mental disability, and she was also roughly arrested because she wasn't following commands, right? Because she has dementia and she's old and stuff like that. It was like a carbon copy of this story, and it came out a couple weeks after this story. And I'm just like, I'm reading that article and I'm thinking, this just happened to that other white woman. Why is this a racial thing? Because they made it into a racial thing, right? They're talking about they're casting in the Black Lives Matter light. They're talking about human rights abuses and civil rights and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I just read an article about this happening to a white woman, right? This is not cutting it with me. Like, cops are shitty to everybody, right? Regardless of your race, and cops are also good to everybody, right? So it's about, I mean, not to belabor the point, but I think it's more about bad cops than it is about racism.
I had it pulled up for one of our previous episodes, but I don't think we talked about it. And unfortunately, I don't remember the lady's name or the state or anything. But other than a cop pulled over a black lady for drunk driving, found that she was drunk driving, gave her all the tests, whatever. Took her through and got her got into the system, whatever. And then she came back and accused him of sexually assaulting her throughout the process.
Yeah.
And so they basically released the entire body cam footage. And it's like an hour long. And I watched the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
At some point, like I just had it on in the background, but watched most of it. And that cop treated her with the utmost absolute freaking respect that I can't imagine them treating
Dude, I'm
like
telling you, body cams were the best thing to ever happen for
for
cops.
both sides.
For everybody,
For
yes.
cops, for everybody. Yes. But like, she's getting ready to go to prison and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "What do you need out of your bag?" And so he goes and gets it for her and he brings it back and he says, "Hey, type in your password on your phone so I can turn it off so that when you get out in the morning, it still has battery because you don't get signal in the jail and it will search for GPS and signal and just drain the battery."
That's
Like-
insane.
Like he's thinking of all of these types of things, trying to help her out and all of this. He was absolutely perfectly respectful and nice and responsible. And then she's like, "He assaulted me sexually throughout this whole process." Like,
Jeez.
what a cunt bag.
I think
Like, Jesus.
she might be a
Pardon my
little,
language.
little screwy, Some people
Ugh.
are just kind of unwell, and they kind of like habitually do that kind of thing.
Yeah, she came out after they released the footage though, and was like, "My bad." Because I mean, it's clear there's nothing anywhere, right? Yeah. But the fact that they have to do that, like, sorry, Daniel. Sorry for my language. I apologize.
Is Daniel sensitive to that?
I guess he doesn't like the C word. I apologize. I shouldn't have said it. I do have
My
a pretty
fiance
vulgar.
both.
I have a vulgar.
That's a categorical aversion. Is that what it is? No, that's the word moist. That's what that is. That categorical aversion to such words. I embrace such things. I would champion that word. If I had a flag, that word would be on it.
Yeah. You want me to pull up another one? I got a quickie. You like
Yeah,
quickies?
let's do a quickie. We also
quickie.
wanted to talk about we'll get there. Oh God, I saw that.
I'll pull it up next.
You
What
know,
do
Tim
think?
Pool actually brought that up on his show. Go ahead and read it.
What
for
did he
people
say?
just listening.
All right, so for those listening, it says, "It cracks me up when the left is referred to as radical, as if the left is running around carrying assault rifles, denying science, and discussing and not accepting the election results." I mean, first off, the right doesn't think those things are radical, so they're not going to call themselves radical because that's what they believe in, right? Is that
Yes,
the
I
point?
suppose.
Is that the
No.
point Tim makes?
No, he does what's professionally known as whataboutism. But bring it back up. We can go line by line. What basically?
All
So
right.
He God, I hate this. So number one, every meme on every
It's a meme. First off, it's a meme. It's gonna be ridiculous, right?
It's ridiculous and reductive, right? So basically, you could take this and make a template and be like absurd straw man, unreasonably reasonable, uncharacteristically reasonable thing characterization of my side, right? So it's just like it is what it is, but it's like left running around carrying around assault rifles. First of all, there have been leftist groups, especially a bunch of African American gun clubs running around doing essentially security at rallies. So they are running around with assault rifles, and the Second Amendment is almost not even.
That's their right.
Thing anymore.
Don't rip on them for it. It's their right.
Correct. I'm not. That is absolutely their right, and I'm glad that they've finally embraced it.
Did you just say black men can't own assault rifles?
Oh, jeez. Yes, it's this kind of show, huh? It is this kind of show.
It is after a glass of stronger than expected whiskey.
This is my water.
So let me. I know we were getting jokey and half serious here. I want to interrupt you real quick. This glass right here.
I've been looking at that. I really like it.
Legend?
It's a leather bound whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So, I can tell you, I got this in one. Like the you buy a bottle of liquor and it comes in a Christmas box and has a glass or a shot glass or whatever in it.
Yeah. Sounds classy to me.
No, it's like you can go out and buy a bottle of Jim Beam, and it'll have a Jim Beam glass in it.
True.
Like it's just a box with a bottle. Yeah. So that's where this came from, right? So the name of the liquor, the name of the Coca-Cola is, for YouTube background, is Legent.
Apple juice.
Legent. I'd never heard of it. They don't sponsor us, whatever. Me and my wife went out for a night this past weekend, and we stopped at the liquor store before we got to the hotel, and I was just looking to buy something I had never had, so I bought this. I didn't pay attention to the ABV on it. I drink whiskey all the time, no problem. And you wouldn't think that like an additional 9% is that much, but it's almost 25% more because most whiskeys are 40%. This is almost 50.
Wow.
So I didn't really pay attention to it, drank my normal amount, and got a little more shitter-faced than expected. So I drank a little more than I normally do on the podcast as well because, you know, I didn't soften my pour. But anyway,
nice.
Yeah. If you want one of these glasses, go on ahead, get yourself a Legend.
Just mail it to me.
Will do.
All right. Let me continue with my serious deconstruction of stupid memes that come online, and nobody takes seriously except for the people who like them anyways. But it's like so. Look, number one, the left does all those things, right? So they are carrying assault rifles. Thank God. Good. Embrace the Second Amendment.
Science?
Right.
What do they deny science on? I'm curious.
A lot of things.
They probably do. I'm just trying to. I can't think of one.
So number one, I would argue that they overblow the threat to the planet that climate change poses. Right. For example, AOC has literally said that the Earth is basically cooked in 12 years. We're done. Right. We have 12 years to turn this around, and after that, we're messed up. Which is denying the science on it. They also so I would also argue that they are anti-science when it comes to transgender rights, or it comes to the transgender topic, I suppose, saying that a man is a woman and a woman is a man, that kind of thing.
More philosophical.
How
can I say philosophical, but I can't say it
philosophical? The right way? We almost selected a name for the podcast that was basically that. God, we're screwed.
Philosophical. Yeah, the one I proposed today, though, that's simple enough. I'll never mess that up.
Anyways, basically everything. So they deny science on a whole bunch of things. There's more stuff I'm not thinking of right now.
Well, then, at least they accept the election results. You can't.
They accepted these election results, but back in 2016, all they could talk about was how Russia and Facebook and all that kind of stuff, which I know that you believe a little bit more of. But Hillary Clinton was basically calling herself the president for a little while there. Anyways,
she did not. She never did.
I will. It's more of a joke. I will not even pretend that the left is as bad as the right on that particular issue right now, but they still do it. That's number one. Number two, that first part, it cracks me up when the left is referred to as radical. Yeah, you are radical. Regardless of how radical the right is, you're still radical. Like, you call yourselves radical. Like, Jesus.
I don't know about that.
They do.
I think that's a fair statement. That's the part that I like the most about this. Feeling this for a while, that the right is shifted from admitting that there is center left, moderate left, and then radical left, and it's now anything left is radical, right? It's like it's grouping and demonizing the entirety of people that don't consider themselves Republican, and even demonizing those within the Republican Party that don't necessarily agree with the statement. And I know the left does that too.
Certainly divisions within.
Yeah, and I know the left does that too. Like, if you don't agree with whatever is the topic, you're demonized. So that part's the same. But that part where it's like the radical left is, to me, an issue statement, because all of the left isn't radical.
Yeah, that's a defining term. So the right is not a monolith. I know that the divisions have gotten worse and worse, and so a lot of people who are on the right generally do say the left as a whole is radical. But usually when somebody on the right says radical left, especially people who I respect in my sphere of conservatism, they're talking about the radical left. It's the defining term. Like, if you're not radical, I'm not talking about it.
That doesn't make sense, though. If something is radical, it's not mainstream, and it's not really a big issue. Well, then it's not worth being worried about. Radicalism, like the radical minority.
No.
Is and
Okay,
I
how about
shouldn't
this?
I shouldn't have said it that way. Hold on, I shouldn't have said it that way.
Wait. Would
I
you
misspoke.
say that the Soviet Revolution was radical?
I don't know
The answer
enough
is
about
yes.
it, but
The answer is
probably.
yes.
I
It
said
was
I
radical,
misspoke.
and that
I
became
misspoke.
mainstream.
I misspoke.
Okay,
right? I didn't mean that there's nothing to worry about. I said I misspoke.
Okay.
You were just
Sorry.
too hell
Yeah, I
bent
know. I
on.
was just pouncing. I was just
Um,
pouncing.
I admitted it. I realized it before you even said a word. But the point is, like, the way it's used is targeting the entire left, not just this portion of the.
Yeah,
like, the way it feels when it's said.
I don't know. You're being so you're actually doing exactly what you're talking about, which is you're saying that the right does this, and I'm trying to like all of the people that I respect, which is a particular swath of the right. They always delineate between liberals, left liberals, and the radical left. Right? There's
Okay,
always
so
delineation.
So your number one God King and everything, Mr. Shapiro does not. He
No,
calls
he
everybody
absolutely
radical
does.
left. He does it
No.
all the time.
No,
So Amanda, hold on.
hold on.
Amanda says,
Hold on. Hold on. I'll let you go in a second. But Ben Shapiro is the one that I got that distinction from. Ben Shapiro uses the word, and he says this all the time. If you listen to his show, probably every 3 or 4 shows, he will explain that when he says the left or the radical left, he's talking about the very far left. When he's talking about liberals or left liberals, he's talking about just run-of-the-mill Democrats.
I must just happen to watch only the ones he doesn't say that in.
Yeah, well, I
That's
watch
just
way
bad
more
luck.
than you.
That's
So
just bad luck. You do, but I guess it's just bad luck. Amanda says there's the whole sex equals gender movement. Yeah, I think we've talked about that before on stream, but generally neither one of us
sex
agree
does
that
not
sex-
equal gender, and then they taped the equals back on top of it.
They either equal, like sex either equals gender, and then you need another word for
Right.
like whatever is your mental or like awareness of your sexuality, however you want to put that, or sex doesn't
Gender
equal
identity.
gender. Like, yeah, thank you. Your gender identity, like one way or the other, like they can be equal, but then there needs to be another term that's used for the new.
Correct. That's my whole argument about the word woman. So, right, if you, for example, to get into that real quick, if you say a transgender woman, as in a man who believes that he's a woman, if you say a transgender woman is a woman, that's definitionally circular. Now you need to give. So, if I accept that, now you need to give me a word for a biological woman, right? I just like it. Let's say I'm free and accepting and open to your concept, and I'm just like, okay, great. I need another word now because. How do I say biological woman without also alluding to transgenders now? You know?
Well, you just did it. Biological woman.
Right. So now I have to add something to appease you.
I have to use more syllables? God damn it. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, there's my little language lesson there.
You want to get on to
you're a little quiet.
The Gaza thing.
Yes, let's do it. All right, so
looking away. My mic
let me just open up on this real quick, and then we can dive into it. So I just wanted to say again, we were talking about this is more clarifying than anything. So I love having these conversations with Tim, and anytime you have a good conversation with somebody with a lot of back and forth, you should come away with a sense that, yeah, am I right? I don't know if I'm right, and then you should go do more research and figure out whether you are or are not right. And then if you're wrong, always open up about that or go in for clarification or whatever it is. But I wanted to open up this hopefully quickish segment by saying that I wanted to clarify and make sure that if anybody's listening and they think that I meant to say that Palestinians, all Palestinians are terrorists, or even the majority of Palestinians are terrorists, I promise if it sounded like that, I did not mean that. I really did not, right? So when I say they are terrorists, I'm speaking strictly about the actual terrorists, right? Hamas. And not even all of Hamas, right? Some of them are mailmen, some of them are, right? So because they run the entire government of the region. So I just wanted to clarify that, I think it's always a good thing to clarify if you think you're wrong or were perceived as wrong. So with that, I mean, so the conflict is ongoing in the Middle East. The Israelis continue to bomb Gaza, and Hamas and I guess Lebanon now are sending rockets into Israel. So that's going on. I guess the left is pressuring Joe Biden to stop selling weapons, but apparently Joe Biden is sort of like old guard. In old guard politics, you say Israel's our friend and we give them weapons. What do you think about that? Do you think we should be supplying Israel with weapons or no?
I'm torn. I mean, the West, not just the U.S., but the West in general, basically built Israel. We got those
Basically.
people there.
I would disagree and say the Jewish people and the Arab residents there built it. We just sanctioned it, and by we I mean Britain mostly, or the UN, I suppose.
Yeah, it was the West, right? It was Britain and then the UN, and so, and then they gave Israel the rights to create a state, and then there was a war because of that, and then Israel was like, "Ha, we whooped your ass for making our state bigger,"
Yep.
and here we are, right? Many wars later. So the West is responsible for them being there in the first place, and I think for us as the West, I don't just mean the U.S., I mean the UN and the West in general, to just be like, all right, you're on your own now, probably isn't really fair without
Really
saying
constructive.
yeah,
That was
without
part of the conversation that we never got to. That I don't know if I would have gotten to it, but having a week to reflect on what we talked about. One of the big issues is, and I did more research after we left. I watched some documentaries. I read some more articles, and if anybody goes back and you read about the origins of Palestine and Israel, it's a whole bunch of messed up, basically British imperialism, British and French imperialism. The whole region was basically divided up after World War One. World War One, in order to take down the Ottoman Empire, the British promised the Palestinians, who weren't Palestinians at that point, it was just basically the local Arabs. They promised them a state, and the state was Palestine. And for a while, it looked like that was going to happen, but then political winds changed, and they needed the Jews' help for something, so they ended up promising the Jews a state. And so the Jews actually ended up winning out after World War II, basically because of the Holocaust. The Europeans said, okay, no, we're just going to give the Jews the state, and then they sanctioned that state, and then here we are. So I think that was a huge mistake. Absolutely. And we didn't even get to that last time. So despite the fact that I don't blame the individual Jewish settlers that went there, I
don't either.
I blame the United Nations for sanctioning such a thing, right? For creating a Jewish state in the center of hostile, Arab territories. It's asking for trouble. There didn't need to be. Like, we could have carved out a whole state of, we could have given them like Oregon or something like that. Like, we could have put them anywhere but right in the middle of people who are theologically opposed to their existence, as well as,
Well, I think we'll continue to disagree that it's a strong theological issue, and I don't think that we should dive that one down again. But
I have Hamas's charter. We can talk about that if we get to it, but I have direct quotes from them.
Well, okay, it may be for Hamas. That's not how the conflict started to begin with, right? And now Hamas hates them for that. Anyway, the point I was going to get to is I truly believe, and this is kind of what I said last podcast, that both sides, neither side, let me say it that way, was wrong really in the beginning, right? Like,
yeah, they were definitely messed around with by Britain.
Yeah, I don't find any fault on the side of the Jewish settlers who were looking for a better place to live, looking for a homeland after all the things that were happening to them, that were taking land that was promised to them by somebody who was supposed to have control of the land.
Yep.
I also don't have any issue with the Palestinians who were part of the Ottoman Empire when it fell. That was their homeland. They've lived there for hundreds of years, several generations. And the British said, "Hey, we're going to give you all this land back," right?
They were promised that territory in exchange for a rebellion that they successfully pulled off against the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah, and so you look at both sides, and both sides have legitimate reasons for wanting to be there, and were promised it from the people that were currently in control of the land. And so when it came down to it, that the British were like, all right, we'll just each give you half, kind of, right?
Yep.
And the UN sanctioned that, said, okay, that's the best we can do, I guess. And then there was a war because of it. and the Israelis won. And the Israelis won the war, and rather than getting the whatever it was, 55% of the landmass that they were going to get, they got like 70%. And
Yep.
more wars happened, and you get to where we're at today. But the
Right.
point is, both sides still feel like they have the right to the land. That's what started this. Now, since then, it's become, one of the feuds. It doesn't. You don't even remember what the cause was. You're just like, fuck those guys. Like, I hate you because you are that guy. Like,
Yeah, I think there is some of that. I do think you have your head in the sand a little bit about the religious element, because there is explicit religious elements to it. I have some quotes here from Hamas, right? So Hamas is the governing body for the Gaza Strip, right? So not the other loose assorted territories. I don't think I'm going to read through these. I mean, there's a lot. So I one day I pulled up the charter that Hamas has, and their charter basically outlines who they are, why they're doing what they're doing, and there's stuff in here it's just extremely nasty. Like, it's not good, right? There's overt there's Islamic scriptures quoted. So, like, for example, I swear by the holder of Muhammad's soul that I would like to invade and be killed for the sake of Allah, then invade and be killed, and then be invaded again, right? And this is in relation to Israel. There's something about hunting down Jews, and then the trees themselves will cry out that the Jews are hiding behind them. They talk about the Zionist invasion. They talk about, and there is absolutely, by the way, some nationalism in there, right? I'm not going to pretend that this is a unidimensional
is there somewhere in there that it says, like, we want to hunt down Jews outside of just Palestine? Like, we want to eradicate Jews everywhere.
So the line that I just spoke about is in the Quran about hunting down Jews. It's basically, paradise will not come until we fight the Jews. The day of judgment will not come about until the Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews. When the Jew will hide behind the stones and trees will say, "O Muslim, O Abdullah, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him."
Yeah, but there's a lot of lines in the Bible that aren't directly followed, right? Like, just because there's a line
but this is in their charter.
You said it was in the Quran.
Yes, it's from the Quran.
They're trying to drive a rebellion against the Jews, and they have a religious text that says, "Hey, we need to do this." They're obviously going to take advantage of that.
All right. Well, I think you're guilty right now of the sort of bigotry of low expectations. Like, they know what they're doing.
So let me take a step back. If this issue was a pure theological one, why was it not an issue? Why were there not these wars and battles and other things prior to the separation of states?
Yeah, that's a good question, and there is an actual answer to that. And the answer is that they have it in their charter. They reference it a little bit. I'm not gonna read it directly, but they talk about religions can coexist peacefully. And this, I actually put this down at the bottom. It's like, this is an interesting counterpoint, but it's also not a counterpoint. They talk about religions with the Christians and the Jews. We can coexist peacefully under the wing of Islam. So the problem with that the Arabs thought with the Jewish state, despite the fact, aside from the fact that they were promised the land, the problem that they have is that Islam is actually more than Christianity and Judaism. Islam is it's a system of governance. It very much so, right? Which is why all of the countries where it's predominant in are basically theocracies. So the issue is that the state was explicitly Jewish, or the Jews were allowed to be, or the Jews were partaking in the government, right? Not that it was 100%, because the Jews invited Arabs into their state. The problem is that the state that was created was not an Islamic one, and that it wasn't explicitly Islamic. It's really not that much more complicated than that, so I won't belabor the point.
So the surrounding Islamic states aren't getting involved only because, like, why are they not also firing rockets? Why is it?
They did. That's
well,
what
they did. They did it first, yeah, but also they wanted that land for themselves, right? Jordan was also promised part of that land, and then didn't get it.
The West Bank?
Yeah,
I was not aware of that, but But generally, that wasn't a territorial thing. That also was religious, right? They were, or you can also think of that especially early on, those wars were probably a bit of more of an ethnic / religious.
So let's
thing.
look at it from our perspective. Say all this happened on the U.S. side, whatever, and I don't know. Let's pick a state that doesn't really matter, like Connecticut.
Yeah, we'll fight you. I'll get my boy.
To any Connecticutans out there, I'm just picking on Nate a little bit. And let's say this happened there, right? Let's say a communist state came in and made Connecticut communist. Would we not all be pissed? Right? It's now something that's opposite. Now, we wouldn't necessarily be like, hey, we need to go over and invade Russia, but we definitely need to take them out of our land. This is our land. This was our land.
Well, hold on. So what you're saying is true, and it is a very large driver. I don't think I admitted that enough on the last podcast, if I admitted it at all. But nationalism, also ethnic solidarity.
Amanda said Connecticutans. Amanda said Connecticutans.
I thought we weren't allowed to use that word.
I mean, I think Daniel takes offense to it, but Amanda seems fine.
Okay. All right. Anyways, yes. But listen, nationalism, I'm telling you, yes, it's a driver. Ethnicity is a driver, right? This is an Arab, not necessarily a Muslim thing, right? The Arabs in the surrounding countries weren't happy that Arabs were subjugated to Jews, which is both an ethnicity and a religion, right? Then there is the religious component, right? So all of these things are components, and it makes it unique to that particular situation.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree that there are theological components at all. I don't think it's the main driver. So let me clarify.
I'm telling you
You're telling me that
that's
you
your
believe
liberal
that
American
it is.
inclination, and it makes you pretty much it makes you go into this situation handicapped because you don't understand how much of a driver it is, because it is a fundamental driver. Hamas is an Islamic. It's not just the government. It is the Islamic government of the Gaza Strip.
If it wasn't their land originally,
I'm not. I agree.
If somehow Great Britain was able to pop up an island in the middle of the sea right there and made that the Jewish state, this war wouldn't be happening, in my opinion.
Yeah,
right?
Partially because there wouldn't be any Arabs that are subjugated under the Jews. They still wouldn't be friendly with them.
They can go from, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but they can leave Gaza, they can leave West End and go into an Arab state. Why not?
No, it's because it's blockaded. It's under military blockade.
Okay, so if I'm wrong there, then I think that's bullshit. They should be able to leave if they want to. But anyway,
I think the issue is.
But the reason I make that point, is, regardless of the theological disagreement, the reason for the war is because of the land issue. And that's why I say, if they didn't separate that out, if they didn't give Israelis the Palestinian land and they just like somehow poofed land into existence in the sea right there and gave Israelites, then there would be no war. So yes, there's a theological difference and there's issues there, but the driver, the one thing that has to be there is the land.
Theological differences. It's the fact that Arabs cannot suffer a non-Islamic government to be placed over them. They were invited, again, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the Arabs that lived in the Jewish region were invited to partake in the government. This was going to be a democracy of the people within there. They were
offered their own state, and Israel was their own state. They were not governed by Israel.
But the Arabs were not getting kicked out of the Jewish state. They were invited to partake in the government.
No, so when the first war happened between Israel and Palestine, it was right after the UN said, "Here's
Israel
what you get,
surrounding Jordan, Syria,
all
Egypt.
of that, right? Here's what you get. Here's what you get, right? Here's the land you get. Here's the land you get." And there was 600,000 or 700,000 Palestinians that were basically kicked out of their land and homes because it fell into the Jewish side of it, the Israel side. And so they were booted out and moved into the
Wait, when was this?
Palestinian part. This is the original time when Israel and Palestine were separated and
And you
given
read
their
this?
own statehoods. Yes.
Yeah, give me a source. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong if I haven't read you.
There's multiple,
Okay,
but
sure.
it's probably on Wikipedia. I mean, I read it several times. So
Was that voluntary dislocation or was that involuntary?
I don't know.
From
It's
what I
possible that
understand,
it's possible they were allowed to stay. I don't know that for sure, but I know that by creating these two states, there was like 700,000 Palestinian refugees that were caused where they had to move, or they did move. I shouldn't say have to, into Palestine. Regardless, that is they were given a state to rule themselves that would have been Muslim ruled.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to fight. They didn't have to go to war to try and take the land back. That was not ruling them. It's a separate state. It's a separate ruling. They wanted the land. They did not.
I know they also wanted the land. Look, Tim, right here. Again, the Hamas charter. Listen to this. It is necessary to instill in the minds of the Muslim generations that the Palestinian problem is a religious problem and should be dealt with on this basis. Palestine contains Islamic holy sites.
Hamas is like saying the fifth generation of the Hatfields don't they hate the McCoys for just being fucking McCoys at this point. And hopefully you've heard of the Hatfield and McCoys, but
this was written in the 1980s. This is their charter.
So that's 40 years after all this stuff happened originally.
Okay, and they're still in charge. I don't understand. Like, you're really, really splitting hairs here. I don't know why you don't want to admit that because
of multiple things.
Religion?
No, I'm not saying that there aren't religious parts of it. What I'm saying is from all of the research I've done and how I've interpreted the research and what I see as the driver.
So
this is what I see.
You are pulling out a motive that makes sense to you. As a Western, so like we all tend to do this. And
are you not doing the same thing? I mean, did you call up Hamas and talk to each of them and say, "Oh yeah, okay"?
This is their goddamn charter.
So if the Israelites just all decided to become Muslim, but they still wanted to keep all their land, you guys would just be cool?
Yes.
No, they wouldn't.
Yes, they would.
Want their damn land back. They're stuck in this little tiny fucking strip. You're not allowed to leave that strip anymore. Still, but hey, we believe we're Muslims now. Or what if they went to Christian or anything other? I mean, it has to be Muslim, I guess, right?
It has to be Muslim. Yes, that's the point.
But
the government would have to be an Islamic theocracy in order for them to accept Arabs living under it.
Yeah, and so I like, and I haven't argued that the religion plays a big part. I'm saying
you've argued that it's a much
the
smaller
core part. I'm saying that it is not the core. It is not the thing that made the conflict happen.
All right, so I obviously can't convince you. Like, I read you direct stuff that says directly a quote from the people who rule Hamas. I'm sorry, Gaza.
This all
and are in charge of the current
Hamas.
conflict.
This all started before Hamas.
But they're the people who are currently pursuing the fight.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make, though, is with the Hatfield and McCoys. Hold on. So let me go back to them just as an example. It's a feud, right? The Hatfield and McCoys are one of the most famous feuds in the U.S. If whoever's listening doesn't know, look it up. It's funny. I shouldn't say funny, but you know what I mean. So I forget what the driver is, but let's say, one of the Hatfields killed one of the McCoys, and the McCoys thought it was wrong, and so this started, and there's this big feud, and so it goes back and forth, and they start having this feud, and the feud goes on generations and generations and generations, and it gets to the point where the people just fucking hate you because you're a McCoy, or fucking hate you because you're a Hatfield,
and
they don't even give a shit. You don't even care what originally caused it or what happened, right? And what I'm arguing is that it's gotten to the point now where there's plenty of people, including Hamas and whoever has written this charter and whatever, etc., that have said, we're doing this from a theological reason, and we just hate them because they're Jews, and that's that. But that's not what started it. That's not why all of this conflict started, is what my argument is. Not that that's not one of the major factors today.
Okay, you know that that antagonism towards Judaism is a core.
Yeah, what is that? Why are they like always picked on? I don't know.
No. I mean, it's built into Islam to a certain degree.
Well, why did it happen in Europe? Hitler wasn't Islamic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously another topic, but anti-Semitism is from what I understand, it's been in Islamic pastime for the past 1,500 years.
Yeah.
It's part of the religion, right? So it's like this is an ancient conflict. It's just flared up in the recent history. Again,
They have lived together
specifically because
peacefully, but under Islamic rule, right? And that's why they lived together
yes,
peacefully in
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
Ottoman Empire,
yeah,
is because it was under Islamic rule.
yeah. And I mean, Islamic history is just absolutely fascinating, especially the Islamic Golden Age. And for me, I'm a military person. Their early expansion was absolutely amazing, right? Despite the fact that how bloody and brutal they were in battle, they were, interestingly enough, they were one of the first creeds, religions to directly espouse and enshrine human laws. They were humanists. They were environmentalists, right? They were talking about not harming trees and stuff. Because I mean, they have a whole bunch of amazing stuff. But I mean, I just read you one of the lines out of the Quran. It's, Judgment Day will not come until the Muslims fight and kill the Jews, right? So there's obviously there's a lot of different parts to their religion, but
Yeah, and like I said before, though, and I don't know enough about the Quran and how it's followed compared to Christianity, and my stance on religion overall is that it's just insane at this
yeah,
point in our evolution. But um, Christianity in the Bible has tons and tons of lines that are just
oh yeah,
ridiculous.
if you
Like
read
you do X, Y, or Z, and you need to get stoned in public, right? Like that kind of shit is
oh, yeah.
in
Yeah.
the Bible.
When the Hebrews, it's funny because this is actually topical. When the Hebrews left Egypt, and which were the precursors, they are the Israelites basically. When they left Egypt and emigrated through the Sinai Peninsula, and they came to the Promised Land, which turned out to be Israel, God commanded them to massacre the Philistines that lived there, like man, women, and child, and salt the earth. Like God said, this is your land. You can massacre the inhabitants, and so they committed genocide against the Philistines. So look, I mean, the Hebrews have everybody's got a bloody history. I'm not just going to single them out, but if you go pretty far back, you'll find out that people don't really deserve the land that they're on in any capacity. So I suppose that's we just happen to be in the middle of a conflict that we don't know how to resolve, and that's actually my question to you. What I was going to talk about, what we didn't get to last time. One of the problems is that despite whether we agree or disagree with how the state was formed, and I'm on board with you. I fully disagree with how the state was formed. First of all, it was the duplicity of Britain, and second of all, the Jewish emigration into the area, like flooded Jews into the area, which changed the demographic, which is not fair to the inhabitants. Because it changes the culture, and then there's people who can vote against you, and you've been here your whole life, and that's bullshit, and all that other stuff. So the state of Israel is here, and it is here in its current incarnation. What would your solution be going forward?
I don't know. I actually think the only solution that will work at this point, because of how supported from the West Israel is for Israel to just take over all of Palestine and find a place for all the Palestinians to live. And that's not going to solve it, because now you're going to have insurgency from the surrounding countries and other things. Like people aren't going to be happy as long as there's an Israel. But right now, the
So
Western culture supports Israel too much.
So there's an interesting fact about that. So with the last territory grab, so the last war that happened, and then Israel fully expanded to its current borders, basically.
Yeah, they gave it back for peace, basically.
Oh yeah. Right. So they took some DMZs and stuff, and then they handed back. So they've actually slowly been giving land back to people and stuff like that. And they occupied Gaza until I think the mid 2000s, and then they pulled out of that. But aside from that, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, there are right now refugee camps that have been there for 40 years in these surrounding countries. And for whatever reason, they don't allow them to just assimilate into the normal population, because I think they want to keep it an issue. But
maybe, but I said, if you remember before, I said, why don't they just leave? And you said they can't. They're walled in. They're not allowed to leave. So
yes, it's a blockade. From what I understand, it's to prevent Hamas from importing rockets, which apparently it's not working. But that's
Well, but that doesn't mean that they don't inspect and let people through. Now they're blockading from stuff in. I'm talking about people getting out. Like if
yeah,
I'm
I know. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is for that. And I did hear that, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think nobody's allowed to leave. That's what I heard. I'm not sure the reason for that.
that wouldn't make any sense from if I was Israel. Like, no, your ass is staying here. But anyway,
No, I don't know
Um,
if maybe it's the thing where if you let somebody leave, you have to let them back in.
I mean,
Like
it could
that
be
kind of thing?
it could be Hamas not letting him leave. Again, that is their own state. Israel's. I mean, not that Israel doesn't.
I
do
don't know. We're
blockading everywhere.
speculating right now. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm
I don't know.
So
I don't
what?
know
So
that there's a great
you're
solution.
saying right?
know.
It is there. That's the biggest problem, right? It is there, and not only is it there, but it's the sort of like shining beacon of the closest thing to a Western state there, right? They're the only ones without a theocracy. The only ones that embrace LGBTQ rights. They're the only ones that have like regular voting. Like they're just surrounded by dictators and theocracies. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of like aside the point, but like they are there. And the question is what do you now do? Because everybody who's living there is not a single person who's living there is responsible for the creation of the original state. They're not, right? And if they were young, right? And they're a vanishing minority of a dying population over 100 years old, right? So like Israel's there. That's not going to change. You're not going to move the entire population out of there, for better or for worse, whether you think the country should be there or not. And I don't know. Like, what does the left think should be done? Right? Because I hear there's movements for boycott, divestment, sanction. I don't know what follows that. What is the long-term solution? Because there's again a saying where,
Make it the 51st state.
wow, that would be a power move. It's like everybody disliked that.
I wonder, like, goddamn, what would happen?
Draping our balls on the Middle East's forehead, like, oh my god.
Oh my god, DC can be the 52nd state.
Which one, DC? I don't know in our politics which way Israel would vote. Even though liberals are surprisingly conservative on things like immigration and national security and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just joking. Make them a territory. Whatever. Just get over it. Like, we're funding, like, the billions and billions that we give them anyway. Just fucking at least get taxes back or something, right?
Yeah. I think, here's my solution. I think the surrounding states should open their borders and invite the Gazans to move there if they so wish. I mean, it's like at this point, everybody living in Israel or Palestine has been there for a while. Most of them are second generation. They live there. Someone's got to get over it. Like, but the violence has to stop. I mean, it's very clearly the violence has to stop.
I don't see how it stops until the Palestinians give up that land.
Think that's
I guess.
Expectations.
I only say that because of how long it's been going on and how many times it sparks and the level of hatred between the groups, right? Not that it's disparaging against either group. It's just like it'd be the same way, in my opinion, had the Palestinians won and the Israelites were relegated to small sections.
Yep.
Other than the fact that they would probably not have the backing that they have now, and so they probably would have been squashed out a long time ago. Had we backed them the first time and they still lost when Egypt and Jordan and everybody else were involved, we probably wouldn't still be backing them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know what would have happened. There would have been a refugee crisis again.
Yeah. So who knows? But until they're happy, so maybe Israel just needs to like start buying up the property. Like, hey, here's enough money to where you can go and live somewhere else and make a life for yourself. Like rather than just kicking them out or something, right? Like not forcing people out, not making them homeless, not getting rid of careers, jobs.
Like open up opportunities. Like, hey, we have a deal with Saudi Arabia. They've set aside this amount of land. Yeah. If you want to go there, we've agreed with their government. We'll pay for X amount of
we're going to give Saudi Arabia this much money, and we're going to give you this much money for your land or whatever it is. And it's kind of like eminent domain in the U.S., right? Like, we're going to build a fucking highway here. Here's the money for your land. Sorry about your damn luck. It sucks,
Yeah.
but sometimes there's not a better solution, right? There's not always a great solution. I don't know what the right one is, but
This is a perfect example of no good solutions. This
Yeah.
personifies the idea.
yeah. So, yeah, we'll have to talk another time maybe about level of force and response and all that stuff, because I think that's an interesting conversation and it's getting really late.
Yeah.
And I did want to real quickly see what your thought was on the January 6th commission that the House is pushing through, which probably got pushed through today. I know the vote was today, but I didn't actually see the results. But I imagine because of the numbers that they were able to push it through the House.
Well, you have any details on it? You had an article, right?
I've got several. So long and short, for people that don't know, the House is trying to push through legislation to put together a commission similar to that was put together to investigate the 9/11 occurrence for the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The left says we want to find out the truth, what caused it, who was all involved, why security was light, why the response was what it was. Not 100% to say that there was nefarious acts, but just to say, okay, what can we do to fix these things in the future and make it better as well? Like, I'm sure they're also looking for nefarious acts and to see who was at play, but also to the fair side of saying, okay, what do we need to do to make sure this shit doesn't happen again? The counter argument on the Republican side, the main one that I've seen, is we have a legal investigation going on right now and investigating this, prosecuting people, doing all of this work, and this commission would be duplicating the work, and that's their main stance against it. The left counters that by saying you're just afraid of the truth, pulling it straight from
What
from
truth? So why would
Jack
the Republicans
Nicholson.
be afraid of? So first of
Jack
all, if it's not
Nicholson's,
political, why would the Republicans be afraid of, like, for example, finding out that the police chief misunderestimated the threat or ignored warnings? Like whatever sort of mechanics about why they were understaffed or why threats weren't properly assessed, Republicans wouldn't be afraid of that. The only thing Republicans would be afraid of is if this commission turns into a witch hunt, just a completely political witch hunt. Like, I gotta say,
if the commission comes out with a result that says, like, yeah, we investigated all of the people and they are 95% of them, 99%, whatever it is, we're at Trump rallies, we're Trump supporters, we're this, then it gets rid of all of the narrative of, oh, it was fake, it was
I'm
kind of walking.
Not a lot of people have been peddling it was
people believe
Antifa.
that. Trust me, people.
I know some people. I know some people do, but in mainstream circles.
Yeah, I know, I get it. And so second to that, like, I forget the senator's name, but he came out and said, like, equivocating the attack to it was basically a tourist attract, like tourists coming through, right? And then they released a picture of him blockading himself in, when it was happening, like. But things like statements that have been made get disproven by the commission's results is more what I'm thinking than saying, oh, Senator so-and-so was involved in making it happen, right?
Yeah, it's, I'm just going to say it's political theater and it's a waste of damn time. If you want a commission, put a commission on figuring out unmasking Antifa, right? Finding out who's doing that and why we suffered $2 billion in damages last year. We are right, and I'm not saying one is worse than the other. I'm saying we're already arresting everybody that we can get our hands on that was involved in January 6th, right? Whether it was planning or being there and actually doing it. We're already doing that. Plus, we've already had hearings on why were we understaffed? Why did you ignore this? Like, those people have been fired and justice has been done. I really don't see much of a point of the commission at all, except for political theater. However, Antifa just continues to get away with, rioting and looting and all sorts of political violence and.
So, do you think that there's not any value in even if the commission were to just consolidate this information and write and have these experts come up with a consolidated report on the entire event, you don't feel like there's any additional value in that?
There's value, but it's always a cost benefit, right? Because if we're paying a team of lawyers millions of dollars to do this, it's not worth the time. Everybody already knows what happened. Basically speaking, like we all know what happened. We watched it, right? And it was rightly so, obsessively reported over for a long time. We know there's not much. So you're gonna step on a few of the more radical Republicans' toes, but other than that, nobody really is going to care about the results, right? Whoever's in who's it, Lauren Boebert and the chick with 3 names or 2 names or whatever. There's a couple of them that are saying
Green Taylor?
Yeah. There's a couple of them that are saying incorrect stuff, but there's like Ocasio-Cortez says incorrect stuff all the time. We don't form a commission every time she does. So, like, what I'm saying is basically this is just a big.
They're not forming a commission on Marjorie Green Taylor. They're forming a commission on.
Yeah, but
they want to form the commission on the attack on the Capitol. I don't think that's a fair thing to say. Is like, well, we don't form a commission every time she says something wrong.
Well, my point is that the only people who are still spouting off lies about what happened on that day, like the only confusion around what happened on that day, is conspiracy theorists that nobody takes seriously, anyways, and 1 or 2 freshman Republican congressmen. So my point is that like the only toes that you'd be stepping on, the only people that you would be setting straight, are 1 or 2 Republican freshmen. It's just not worth anybody's time.
I disagree just because of how much I hear it in my circles that they believe these types of things. So I think it could help on a populist level.
It's not going to change any of those people's minds, though. Think about it.
That was going to be my next point. If you didn't interrupt me, was that is it really going to affect those people? They believe it as it is. They're not willing to listen to even their own representative changing their opinion.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I did like about this particular commission is I feel like they've done a really good job of trying to make it a bipartisan commission. And I could just be naive in this aspect. So there's definitely significant room for that. But the way that they want to set it up is that there will be 10 people on the commission, 5 selected by Democrats, 5 selected by Republicans, and there will be a commissioner, which is selected by a Democrat, and a vice commissioner, which is selected by a Republican. And to basically do a lot of the things, so to put out subpoenas and other things, you either need a majority to vote for it or both the commissioner and vice commissioner. So in any case, you need to have bipartisan support to subpoena people to come in and testify and do other things. So I like the fact that they're trying to make it bipartisan, right?
As long as that ends up actually being a reality, yeah, sure. I still think
that's how it's written. That's how it's written.
Yeah, I get that. And maybe there's some political tomfoolery in the background that you and I don't understand, where they're going to make it biased. I would suspect the same thing if it was Republicans saying we're going to make a bipartisan something.
And then to be on the commission, I'm going to read it from the website here. I'll highlight it if you want, but it says you have to have significant expertise in areas of law enforcement, civil rights, civil liberties, privacy, intelligence, and cybersecurity. And current government officers or employees are prohibited from being appointed. So you can't even be a political person to be on the commission. You're just selected by political people.
Still be an activist.
Oh yeah, sure. But you could be a former senator, probably. You just can't be an active one. But the point is, like, it seems like they're trying to remove the politicalness from it to some degree, at least, make it bipartisan, and try and make it about facts and data. I like that part, but I can't say if I think it's valuable or not, right?
I think we're just obsessing over it. I'm not even saying necessarily that it wasn't a bad thing, right? So I'm on the right, so I'm always going to downplay the shitty things my side did and then upplay the things that the other side does. But I just don't. I understand that there's some people out there who don't understand or have come up with another narrative for what happened on that day. But like you said, and we agreed, it's not going to change anybody's mind. And on top of that, aside from those people, most people either don't know or don't care or already know what happened. I just don't think there's going to be much that's going to come out of this, like, that's interesting or useful. I just don't like.
I generally agree with that statement. I don't know that we're going to have some enlightening facts or anything that comes out of it. I do feel like it's more to continue dragging this issue on, dragging the Republican name through
for a
the
little bit
mud.
of political clout.
Right. And so depending on the level and how much would be spent and all that, I would be for or not for it. I think if they were going to start an investigation over, redo everything, I would not be for that. If the commission was more focused on taking all of the work that's been done from law enforcement and the FBI and other groups, if there was holes that they said, hey, we wanted this question answered, but it wasn't in here, and they subpoenaed somebody for that, okay. If it was that kind of a commission where we're consolidating information, filling in minor gaps here or there, and come in putting out a concise report, I'd probably be in support of something like that. But I don't know the route that they were planning on taking.
Yeah, I'm just a little cynical. I think it's mostly political, but it certainly is at some stage political.
Agree. I don't disagree at all. Yeah. So,
right,
man,
what do you think?
I've still got like 6-7 more tabs to go, but we ran out of time. So,
all right.
Sorry about that.
So you're gonna be on vacation next week.
I am
probably not gonna have the show. I actually just had a thought. It's like 10 seconds ago. Fresh thought. I'm wondering if I can get Chris to come back on for like a single episode to try to maybe we can fill in next week's gap with him if it's just a 1 week temporary thing while he's still doing his thing. Hopefully I can do that. I'll work on Chris with that. Hopefully, if that doesn't happen, you guys, everybody, you get to a weeks long break from our faces, which is, understandable if you need such things. I wouldn't hold it against you.
Yes.
And then I think we're narrowing in on some podcast names, huh? We're getting there.
Yeah, we felt that way before, and we were all excited, and we brought it up on chat. We're like, hey, we're going to be changing our name soon, and then like 7 years later, we're still left, right, and center show. So.
Hey, but just, it is so hard to find a name that's not taken. We're like, oh, that's a really good podcast name. And they're like, The X Show. And it comes up and there's like 3 podcasts on, different platforms with the same exact names. Like, well, yes, of course.
And the frustrating part a lot of times is you'll be like, oh, they have like 1 viewer and
2 episodes back in July of 2015.
Yeah. And you're like, oh,
and they're just watching. They're like, well, I don't have my show anymore, but I'm waiting for somebody to infringe my copyright.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to say our potential names. So Amanda said she thinks it should be the Tim and Nate Talk Politics Show. And I almost said, well, what do you think about blah, 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 blah. I don't know if I want to say it out yet.
You a little scared?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like it could be.
Right. We need to unveil it. We can't just blurt it out there for the peasants to see it before we.
Yeah, and plus I'll probably get on a tirade and talk for it about 40 more minutes. So how about this? If we don't have one locked in by the next time I'm on the show, maybe we can designate. That's got to be yeah, right. Maybe we can designate 15 minutes or something at the end or some point in the next one to say here's some of our ideas. What do you think, chat? Yeah, like a gender reveal. Yep.
Hey, we can call it the firing squad. Write it down. I like it.
That was something that came up today. We don't hate. Could be. I like it less than my other suggestions. See.
Yeah. Well.
But anyway, we appreciate your time. It's getting late. Thank you for hanging out. Please like, subscribe. The comments and chat are much appreciated. For those watching afterwards, please put your comments, questions down below, and we'll try and respond. And as always, if there's any topics you want us to cover on the next podcast, please let us know. Send us a message, and we'll do the best we can to talk about those. Until then, thanks again. Peace.
Peace out.